where it stops, no one knows. We're going headed into the unknown. Na, 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 na.
Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Another day, another day, another day. So a couple things on the agenda. There is a new document that was released from, or that is from the defense team, which we anticipated happening because of the state's response to the defense's motion for a third, or their third motion for a Franks hearing. So, it's from Amazon, Travis. It's from Amazon. 1 second. No, he said it. He did say it. He said it first. It's in an affidavit, but I think Rosie actually says it. Sleuthy Goosey's responding to me. Because I'm trying to find this darn document. And okay, hold on. Let me see. Maybe it is this one. I thought Rosie said it. Okay, well, Sleuthy, I trust you. Give me 1 second, you guys. I was looking for this darn document, and maybe that's why I couldn't find it, because I was actually looking for the wrong thing. And so I used the bat phone and called Andy Goosey over here to tell me where to go find it. Okay, page 4. Okay, hold on 1 second. I've got a kid here real quick. Give me 1 sec. Okay, no, so there's I think it might be in Mitch Westerman's. It is. It's in I think it might be in Mitch Westerman's. So you guys are like, what the hell are you even talking about? So anyway, let me say hi to everybody. If you guys want to go on a hunt for something, this is what my brain remembers. Sleuthy's telling me that it's actually from this, but I remember there being an affidavit from Baldwin that we read where he states that he did give Mitch Westerman a copy of the Franks memorandum. Now, in my memory bank, which sometimes is faulty, it was Rosie who said that. No, maybe it was Rosie who just said he used him to bounce ideas off of as like a strategist. But I remember in an affidavit, I swear it was in an affidavit, and I think it might be attached to Mitch Westerman's case, that Baldwin says that he gave him the copy of the Franks memo. So in this one, this is the one I have up already. So this is the one where Nick responds to it, but I swear he said it. I swear he did. Maybe I'm losing my fucking mind, and it's possible. There's a lot of shit in here. So let me say hi to everybody real quick, and then I want to touch on that, and then we're going to get into the defense's response to the state's response. The defense's response to the state's response. Okay, so hi, sweet dude. So yeah, it was Rosie who said it, or Rosie who said it in a pleading that Baldwin would frequently strategize. Yeah, but I think there's an affidavit straight that there's like one from Rosie and one from Baldwin. That's what I remember it being, that there's one from each of them. And please highlight Liggett's lies. Yes. Hi, Four Pitbulls. Hi, Mandy. Hi, BR. Hey, Carla. Hey, Amy. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Robin. Hi, Nobody Nothing. What's up, Yankee Ghost? Hey, True Crime Fangirl and Black Swan and Dina. What's up, Fiend? I want to talk about why we don't have a signed copy of the PCA. Well, maybe that's the other one that was actually signed. You know, the whole, there's 2 PCAs. Just kidding. I honestly have no idea. That would be that's a great question. Has anybody seen the cop seminar exposed on video? If not, everybody should check it out. I have not seen that. I don't know which one you're referring to. But let me know and I'll check it out. What's up, Digital? What's up, Terry? Odie Dodie. Hey, Laura. Hi, Christy. Kit Kat. Princess Megan Elsa. The princess is in the house. What's up, Darren? Hey, Ginger Snaps. Hi, Just Deb. Blue-eyed beauty. Hi, KT Recovers. Hi, Travis. Where's that? Oh, yeah, I already answered that one. It's just from Amazon. Maligator. Hi, Tony. Law Nerd Amber's in the house. I don't know if I've ever heard that. The intro at 1 times speed. Usually it's at 2 times speed because I'm late. I'm late. I'm late for a very important date. I've thought it was Saturday all day. Didn't even think to check the docket. That was Saturday. That's like the epitome of my life. I have to say happy whatever day to get myself to know where the hell I'm at in the week. Jen, it's the first live you've caught. Well, welcome. Going down, Tony. What's up, Shaz? Journey takes a trip. Hi, Carla. Hi, Unindicted. Hi, Mila's mom. Okay, let's go back down to the bottom. What's up, Chicken Nugget? Chicken Nugget, Chicken Nugget. Okay. Crap. Okay, well, let me see. No shrooms yet. Well, that's good, I guess, I think. Who dis? We have not found any this year. Dina recusing himself now seems a little more sus. Well, yeah, he signs all this stuff and then is like, okay, I'm out. And I remember that as, yes, I remember that as well. And that he gave a copy of the Franks memo, but not the attachment. That's what I remember anyway. Yes. More documents, Michelle. More documents. Yes, more documents. And it's thank goodness that the people who are kind enough to send me the documents are on top of it. We'll be listening as I walk. Some trails hunting shrooms. Oh, that's where the shrooms came in. See, that's what happens when you read the chat backwards. Hey, Miku's headphones caught alive on time and not replay crew. Rosie wrote a letter. Hi, Caitlin. Okay. So this is what I remember. And like I said, maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's wrong. I don't know. Hi, Charmaine. What's up, Caitlin? Snappy Dragon. I'm just seeing in how late I am. You're not very late. Hi, Kyra. Oh, lovely. It's a lovely day. It's a lovely day for a troll. It's a lovely day. It's a lovely day. Okay. All right, so let me share my screen with you guys. Yay, it's a whack-a-troll day. Oh, I can't wait for this trial to be done. Okay, so there's a couple different channels that are out there pushing this commentary that Baldwin gave Mitch Westerman the Franks memo and all the exhibits. And I want to put that to rest because that's not what was said. It's what he says was that he gave him the memorandum. And then Nick implies, and this, I guess, maybe comes to the whole trust issues thing, so you can go with who you trust. But Nick doesn't even really say that himself. And I want to read the words that Nick uses so we can hopefully put that to bed. So this is a filing. Let me go back up real quick. This is a filing back from January 29th of 2024. And it is in the verified information of the contemptuous conduct. So this has to do with the contempt hearing they just had on March 18th. And what Nick is saying, and I'm going to read a couple of the points here just so we know what we're talking about. So in October of 2023, the state was made aware by the families of the victims that crime scene photos were leaked to the public. Indiana State Police began an investigation into how the photos were leaked. It became immediately obvious that the leaked photos came from the defense. On September 18, 2023, the defense filed a Franks motion with a memorandum in support. The memorandum described the crime scene in gory graphic detail. As part of that memorandum, the defense attached exhibits that were provided in hard copies to the state and the court. In no way does it say that he gave these two Westermen when he gave him the Franks memo to read through. Some of the exhibits were side-by-side photos that the defense created and photos of the crime scene that the defense had altered. These photos were the photos that were leaked to the public. I also want to point out that while Jerry Holman was on the stand, he says that all of the photos were from the deposition. Well, when Rosie takes the stand, he actually states 2 of those 5 photos he had never seen before. So they were not from the depositions. So some of the exhibits were the side-by-side photos, right? That's what they're saying. And Rosie's like, no, we didn't use those. I've never seen those. Never happened. So they were not attachments. And yes, there were side-by-side attachments, but the ones that were talked about in court on the 18th is what I'm referring to. So there's 2 different things that those photos were leaked to the public. But Nick does not even state here that Baldwin gave him the exhibits. So I don't know why this is being pushed so hard. What he says is that on September 18th, they filed the Franks memorandum. It was gory. As part of the memorandum, the defense attached exhibits that were provided in hard copies to the state and to the defense. Hi, Sleuth Mom. Hi, Hybrid. I see you, Mama. Okay. The investigation by the Indiana State Police revealed that Mitch Westerman previously worked for Baldwin and was a person Baldwin trusted. In the interview with Indiana State Police Defense Counsel, Baldwin admitted that he voluntarily gave Mitch Westerman a copy of the Franks memorandum to review. Defense counsel Baldwin also stated that he gave the Franks memorandum to another civilian to review. Here, the Franks memorandum and exhibits contained protected discovery information that included very sensitive crime scene photos that were leaked by Mitch Westerman. Nowhere here does it say that Baldwin gave those photos to Mitch Westerman. That's not what he says. This is one of the reasons that people are like, why do you keep going through all these documents? And it's like, because the wording is very important, and people who don't take the time to read it come up with something that it's not actually saying. So here, Baldwin admitted that he voluntarily gave Mitch Westerman a copy of the Franks memorandum to review, not a copy of the Franks memorandum and its exhibits and its attached exhibits. Nothing doesn't say that. He says down here, in his own words, the Franks memorandum and exhibits contain protected discovery information. Now, the photos were leaked by Mitch Westerman. Once again, it does not say that Baldwin gave those photos to Mitch Westerman. Correct. Baldwin gave Mitch the memo. There's nothing to indicate that he gave them all the exhibits. I just think that it's written purposely to put out this thought in people's minds that, look, it did it. It had all these sensitive crime scene photos. And it's interesting to me because a lot of the people who really like say these things, like, oh yeah, Baldwin gave him the photos, so he didn't have to steal photos because he gave them to him. Well, no, that's not what it says. But then they take everything and they're like, well, the defense is just making shit up and putting it in the filings and saying whatever they want. And then that they don't want to call out, like, why aren't we calling out both sides of it then? This is not what he says. So I just want to make that clear. He does not say he gave him the exhibits. he says he gave him the memorandum to review, and he gave it to a civilian. They wrote what they wanted it to be. So now, does that excuse or make Baldwin not, culpable for not locking his door? And other defense attorneys came forward and they all said, yeah, we don't lock our doors either. We have trusted people. And Baldwin trusted the wrong person. He did. He trusted the wrong person with information. It does not mean that he trusted him with crime scene photos. He trusted him with a Frank's memorandum. And I think that, there's some negligence there, but the whole point is willfully and intentionally. And we have to look at that on both sides, because there's also wording when we read the docket or the document from today that we have to take those things into consideration. Everything comes down to the willfulness and the intentionality behind a person's actions. And now that's really hard to show what somebody else's intentions were, right? Because it wasn't your intention. You can only just assume what their intention was. So this is what's happening. We have the state now that's assuming the intention was for, Mitch Westerman to put all this stuff out based on what they're seeing. And then we're going to go through some of that stuff in the document today. It makes perfect sense to those that are confused. Frank's memo made him curious, so he stole pics of the pics. Exactly. Yeah. People thought the defense team just wasn't allowed to talk to anybody about the case except for their staff, and that's not true. Correct. But the defense team isn't allowed to just give away the crime scene photos. So that's why I think that this is purposely being put in here to sway the public, just like everybody wants to say the defense is trying to sway the public. These documents are doing the same thing, trying to sway the public into believing that Baldwin intentionally gave the photos to Westerman. And that's not what is said. And I wanted to find the affidavit. I know that there is one that states it from Baldwin. I just cannot for the life of me remember where it is. I remember reading it, and I don't know if it's might be from Mitch's case. I'll have to keep digging for it, but it's where he says that he admitted that he did give it to Westerman to review. And I know it's before this one because at that point we didn't know that he had given it to a civilian to review. And I remember reading this one and learning, oh, he gave it to two people. And then I was like, ooh, is that civilian Fortson? And then we found out that civilian was a lady. So, unfortunately, some of these people, including the creators, are not intelligent or informed enough to understand the difference between the memorandum and the evidence exhibits that are submitted. Well, or they just don't want to, I think, is another thing too. They don't want to because this is easier. It makes it easier to be like, well, that's just stupid. He gave him all the crime scene photos. He didn't need to steal them. Of course, Baldwin's behind it. So, just wanted to point that out because I'm like literally hearing it almost every day now, and I'm like, what is going on? That's not the case. That is not what it says. But if I can find the other one, I'll bring it up too. Okay, let me see. Because this was Mitch Westerman's, and I thought the affidavits were in here, but it's not. This is where I was looking. And then the record of proceedings. This is the one that's signed by both of them. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Mitch case rector affidavit. Well, that's what I thought it was in, but it's not there. Because I thought it was just one signed by Baldwin and one signed by Rosie. But like I said, my memory might not be the best when it comes to where that document was. But this one, it says where he says Andrew Baldwin did not give him permission to take the photos. So anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm just overlooking it. I'm fucking exhausted, I'll tell you that. I'll be very honest with you. Okay, so this is now what came out today. So the defense filed their third motion for a Franks hearing. The first two have been denied without a hearing. And so they filed, I should probably bring those back up too, just in case we need to go back to them. But Yeah, not 10,000 documents filed. Okay, let me see. This is the response. Let me just bring this up real quick just so I have them. And this one, just in case we need them. Flying around on the state side, like missing evidence, abandoned investigations, uninterviewed POIs. That's why I said I think that if there was no Richard Allen, I could see these exact same people going ballistic about the fact that all this shit was lost, was not followed up on an investigation, that there was no person of interest or no suspect. I could absolutely see that all the same people would be losing their shit. But now they're just like, so like, oh, nope, it's Richard Allen. That's how it is. That's just what happened. And it reminds me of actually why I stopped really following the case when the Keegan Kline stuff happened, because people were so adamant that it was Keegan Kline. And I'm like, there's no way it's Keegan Kline. That guy is not getting up and down any hill. Like it's not happening. Like and he was such a liar. I was like, I don't know why, but people were so adamant that it was Tony and Keegan Kline. I was like, and it's weird because like some of those are the very people who are now so adamant that it's Richard Allen. It's like I don't know if there's like I don't know what you would call that, but it's like you're so sold on something that you can't possibly think it's anything else. But it frustrated the shit out of me. It's actually one of the reasons I stopped following Delphi, because I was like, it's not these people, and I don't know why we're wasting so much time on them. 7 years, never went back to check status of deleted interview. Audioless interviews. Yeah, no, never. Yeah, they'd mass hysteria. It'd be crazy. And then the Ron Logan diehards. Well, see, and it's interesting though, because the Ron Logan diehards never actually went to the Richard Allen side. Like those aren't the ones that ever. But all the Keegan Kline ones are like, and they're the same people who are super pissed off at the people who don't leave the Ron Logan camp. You know what I mean? And it's like, those people think it was Ron Logan, and it's like, you guys thought it was fucking Keegan Kline. That's what. Cognitive dissonance is what I was going to say it is, but I don't know if that's what it actually is. So like I said, my mind is, I'm tired. First raised a dust and then complain we cannot see. Oh, that's a great quote. I like that. Because Murder Sheet said it was. Hi, I'm Gray Hughes' best friend. I'm here to defend his honor. Okay. Well, I don't know if his honor needs defending, but I don't know if that's even real. But he does on. I think he's good. I think he's handling his own stuff. Martha Trucker. Okay, let me see. Oh, all right. So I pulled those up just so we have them to go back to. So like I was saying, this is now the defense responding to what we read the other day, where the prosecution comes in and just basically says, number one, the defense are dumb and they don't know how to read geofencing reports, and we gave them everything they need to do it, and we also told them the list of people that they need, that the list of people that we talked to about it and that we're going to have testify. And number two, they lied about what Turco said. Oh, that's the other one I really wanted to talk about. Oh. They lied about what Turco said. So they're liars and they're idiots is essentially what that filing was. In the response to the third Franks motion. And I mean, literally, I'm not even just making it up. The document actually says they're lying. It calls them liars. It says defense, they're lying. So this is now Baldwin and Rosie's response, and we're going to go through that. Well, Baldwin's response, but yeah, give me 1 second. But Diener didn't provide any receipts. What's up, Junior? Okay, let me see. Make sure you guys can see this. Okay. All right. Defense reply to the prosecution's response to the third Franks memorandum. Comes now the accused Richard Allen by counsel Andrew J. Baldwin and files his reply to the prosecution's response to the third Franks notice. In support of said reply, the accused states the following. Number one, The one area of agreement with the defense and prosecution is that in order for a Franks hearing to be granted, the defense must provide a preliminary showing that false information contained in a search warrant affidavit was either intentionally included or included with reckless disregard of the truth. Such as Liggett's claim that in 2017, Sarah Carbaugh identified the man walking down 300 North as muddy and bloody and is wearing a blue jacket in order to assist the state's timeline, when in fact Sarah Carbaugh never mentioned the word blood and identified the man's jacket as tan. So remember what I just said. You have to pay attention to the words willfully and intentionally. So not only they have to actually be able to prove that Liggett did this on purpose. And if we go back and we read what Nick said, I should have pulled it up, but Nick in here says that Liggett did not, at least Liggett believed this at the time. Whether it's true or not, he doesn't state whether it's true. His argument isn't Sarah Carbaugh absolutely said that it was blue and it was muddy and bloody. He never argues that. What he argues is on behalf of Liggett that Liggett didn't know it and Liggett didn't do it intentionally or willfully. So that's the cop out here. According to what Liggett knew at the time that he was writing the affidavit, this is what he thought. So there was no intentionality behind lying. That's the biggest thing here. So, but they never argue that she didn't say this. So I can go with the fact that I do believe now that Sarah Carbaugh actually does say that it was a man in a tan jacket and that the man was a muddy guy in a tan jacket, because nobody's arguing that point. And I think that should be important to people when it comes to this whole, what are the reasons, when I ask people, like, why do you think that Richard Allen is the guy? Like, convince me he's the guy. Tell me your top 5 reasons or whatever. One of their biggest things is that he says he was wearing the same clothes. Well, so this guy that's supposedly muddy and bloody isn't muddy and bloody. He's just muddy and he's wearing a tan jacket. And nobody's arguing that point. So I think that's interesting. Additionally, the defense must provide a preliminary showing that important information omitted from the search warrant was intentionally omitted from the search warrant or was omitted with reckless disregard of the truth, such as the Liggett's failure to include in the affidavit that Betsy Blair's description of the vehicle at the CPS building was a non-black vehicle that resembled a 1965 Comet with sharp angles, which looks nothing like Rick Allen's car, as his car was black and was a modern car. This is important also because nobody argued that, or nobody on the prosecution side argued that that's not what Betsy Blair said, or that wasn't, that they didn't know that. Nobody argued that point whatsoever. So this makes me go, did they intentionally omit the fact that Betsy Blair said the car was a 1965 Comet? And we could go back over it, but from memory, it states something along the lines of the gentleman that was driving by, the other witness who drove by, said he saw this car that looked like a PT Cruiser or a SUV, and that he saw it parked in this, weird spot at the abandoned CPS building. And then Betsy Blair also saw a vehicle parked at the CPS building, and that both of them had looked at a map and shown that they saw the car at about the same place. But they do not put in there on purpose. They don't lie. They don't say she said she saw a modern car. They don't say what kind of car she saw. All they say is that she circled the spot on the map that kind of matched what the other guy said. So, hi, Francis. Hi, Kaylee. Indiana, no need front plates. Same spot, parked, backed, and sketchy because no plate. Betsy Blair is still alive, yes. She's only like 60, 1 or 6. No, maybe she was 60 then. So maybe she's like 65 now. Yeah. Who dis? You can run your mouth. What's up? You tell me. Oh, like you can't run your mouth. I got you. That's fine. You can say whatever you want though. I honk. They made a typo in this. They said 1965 Ford instead of 1965 Mercury. Remember, she says it was like a Ford Mercury instead of she says it was a Ford Comet instead of a Mercury Comet or whatever. How is her eyesight at 60-ish? Well, I don't know. It's a great question. But, one of the reasons that I was actually looking at Betsy Blair, and I know she's still alive, is because I was trying to figure out her age, because they kept going with this pushing of, well, if an older person sees somebody, then they're going to look young. And then if a younger person sees somebody, then they're going to look old. And I was like, well, she was actually only like 59 at the time, or 50. I got to go back and remember now how old she was. Because I don't remember if she was 60 at the time or if she was 55 at the time. And I was like, she wasn't much older than he was. So he wouldn't have looked like he was in his 20s. He wasn't going to look like he was like super young. Yeah, and it looked like her dad's car. That's what she referenced. So they do leave that out. Now, is that intentional or willful? That's what the judge has to decide. Did they purposely try to deceive Judge Diener? Or did Judge Diener already know what was going on and not really care? I think is my point to the whole thing. Because I think Judge Diener was going to sign anything and everything. I don't think it mattered. Or Liggett's failure to include the description of the person Betsy Blair observed on the bridge as being as young as 20 years old, who had brown poofy hair, which looks nothing like Richard Allen. Or the failure of Liggett to include the fact that Brad Holder had a photograph on his social media that mimicked the crime scene before anyone knew about the crime scene, among other facts that Liggett omitted in his affidavit. Now, this part with the brown puffy hair, poofy hair, I mean, that's not in there. We know it's not in there. We know that if with Doug Carter's magic hands, he puts them together and makes them the same person. But we know in their press releases, they're telling us they're no longer looking at the first person. They're no longer looking at OBG. They're looking at YBG. That is the person that they want to find. And then, of course, when it becomes confusing to the public, they make it more confusing and do magic hands and make it the same person. Well, it's not the same person because every other witness says that the person had their hood up. And now all of a sudden, Betsy Blair's the only person who gets to see this guy's hair. So if it is the same person and Betsy Blair gets to see the same guy's hair, and it is, you put them together and it's the same person, then he has brown poofy hair because she's the only one who sees the hair. Now, the bottom one down here, I don't know if this would be a purposely omitted statement because I don't know what Liggett knew about Brad Holder. Because remember, they cleared them right at the beginning. They were like, they're not a big deal. So I don't know if that's purposely omitted or not, or if it's just irrelevant to them because they're not looking at them at all. They've cleared them in their minds. So, number 3, the defense would not expect Tony Liggett or any law enforcement officer to voluntarily admit that he either intentionally provided false information or omitted information with reckless disregard of the truth. Yeah, Liggett's going to be like, I did it. I did. I purposely didn't want to put that in there because I didn't know if he was going to give me the warrant or not. Now, remember, if these things are in there, and if it is rewritten and changed to brown poofy hair could be the hat, you think? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I could go that far, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody with a hat and thought, oh my gosh, look at that head of hair, unless it's one of those stupid hats that has fake hair on it. What was I saying? I don't know where I was going with that now. I had a point I was making, but I don't know. Maybe if she's blind. But I don't even think she wears glasses. I mean, she may wear contacts, but I don't think she wears glasses. She could have conflated two separate people in her memory. Possible, except for you got to remember, she's also the one who gave the very first sketch right off the bat. So I think that it's got to hold some weight to her credibility if she's the one who very first sees the person or provides, the sketch to the person. Maybe visors with fake hair. Yeah. Are they related? Conflict. Stepmom try to save Lauren. Eyewitnesses are inheritably unreliable. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. But the problem here is they're using the eyewitnesses in the probable cause. So them being inherently unreliable is to them. I mean, they're the ones that are using the information. Damn it, I'm late. I heard people say there was 2 sets of girls, but can't find a single one to show me where a group of girls seen him on the trails. K-Cap? No, I don't. I cannot. We don't have the other group of girls. We don't have their information. Well, I know who they are, but I don't. There's no interviews that we've been shown from law enforcement to say that it could or could not have been them. What we do have is them putting on social media that they were there and they went to the park to play basketball. That's what we have. So I don't think it's, did they see them? Did they see somebody? I think the question is, it needs to be asked to them. Because we don't know. We don't know whether they did or didn't. But there is a second group of girls. And the hardest part about it for me is that the other group of girls is a group of 3. And the group that they keep referring to that Richard Allen said he saw is a group of 4. It's not a group of 3. He also never states that he saw Betsy Blair or a person that would have been Betsy Blair. So the whole, I came forward because I know that somebody saw me while I was there. He never says that he saw Betsy Blair. He never saw somebody at the bridge. He only says he saw the 3 girls. So I think it would be interesting to have a conversation with those 3 girls or to see what law enforcement asked those 3 girls and who they did see. Why didn't the 4 girls see Allen on a bench or on a bridge? He said he was there when they were there. 3 girls, not 4. Okay. Okay, hold on. Why didn't the 4 girls see Allen on a bench or on the bridge? He said he was there when they were there. No, he didn't say he was there when they were there. What do you mean? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, hold on. So if he says he's there from 12 to 1:30, he's there at approximately the same time that those girls would be there. So why didn't he see them? Is that what you're saying? Okay, so there's a channel, and I don't know if you've watched it or not, but I would refer you to this channel because I think it shows exactly how they would not see each other. So it's called All Eyes on Delphi, and it's a walkthrough of each person's perspective from the time frame that Richard Allen says he was there and the time that BG was there. So whether you think it's the same person or not, you can see both timelines, and you would be able to see exactly how somebody would be over here and somebody would be over here, and they would not actually run into each other. They would not see each other. So I absolutely think it's possible. My other comment to that is Richard Allen says these specific facts in 2022, not in 2017. So in 2022, he's like, yeah, this is where he says he was wearing the same clothes. I beg any one of you guys to tell me what you were wearing on February 13th of 2017 or any other day that was extremely important to you in your life or something major happened. Tell me what you were wearing. For me personally, I can't do that. I can't tell you what I was wearing. I could tell you an idea of what I was wearing because I typically wear the same types of things. And, I'm comfortable were you wearing a V-neck t-shirt? Well, I probably was because I only wear V-neck t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like, so yes, I could see that, did you have a blue jacket on? I very well could have. I either wear a blue jacket or a black jacket. For me, I wear a black sweatshirt or a gray sweatshirt. Like that's just my life. That's who I am. So I don't know how he could say this is one of the things, and I say, like, I'm waiting to hear certain pieces that will put me in one place or the other on whether I think he's the right guy. And this is one of the things I'm waiting to hear, is because if he's being interviewed in 2022 and he's like, yeah, I used to go to the trails all the time. I definitely spent some time out there. And they're like, okay, what did you do when you were out there? What would you typically do when you were out there? He's like, I'd go and I'd watch the fish. I'd go out. I wouldn't cross the bridge because, I didn't cross it. But I'd go out to like the first platform and I'd watch the fish in the water. And they're like, boom, he's on the first platform exactly where, so-and-so saw him, or Betsy Blair saw him. But how does he know 5.5 years later that he was out there on the first platform watching fish? That's my struggle with that. I want to hear how the questions went. I want to hear, were they saying, okay, do you own a black or blue jacket? Would you have been wearing it at that time? Yeah, I probably would have been. It was February. It was cold. Do you own a hat? I do. I own a lot of hats. And I'm like, do you typically wear jeans or do you wear shorts? And he'd be like, well, no, I don't, because some people don't wear jeans. Like, I don't like jeans at all. I hate jeans, like actual full length jeans. I hate them. I will wear them if I have to, but I don't like them. So I would be able to say, no, I was not wearing jeans. I was wearing something else. Do you see what I mean? Like, I think that there's questions that can be asked, and I think we need to know what those were. I think we need to know what those questions were that would lead him to answer the way that he was answering for them to put it in there. And we know, not from one side or the other, we know that both sides are writing these documents in order to get their point across. So we can't forget that. This is why I'm like, you can't ignore one side and just totally buy into the other. Both sides are presenting information that is important for us to absorb. And I think like the rule follower, I'm very uniform in my clothes. Some casual in different colors, the same Chanel 2-piece skirt and blazer for work. The defense needs to explore this. Rule followers are rigid and detailed. That's me. Like, these are the type of jeans I wear, or, jean capri pants I wear. These are the type of tennis shoes I wear. I've had a pair of black Nikes with a white stripe on them for probably 10 years. They're all different, but if you said, hey, do you wear black Nikes? I would say, yes, I do. Do you know what I mean? So I just think it's important to know those answers and know the way that the questions were had. Now, is he just like sitting in this interview room going, yeah, I was there on the 13th and I walked out and I was looking at the fish and checking my stock ticker. And then I sat down on a bench that day, and I saw these 3 girls. If he's completely volunteering all that information, one, I think it's fucking weird that he even remembers all that. That would make it, to me, go, he really knows what he did that day. And to remember it was a very specific day for him. You know what I mean? Like, I would think that's kind of interesting. But if they're saying, hey, is this what you were wearing? Or could you have been wearing this? Hey, do you normally sit on a bench? He's like, sometimes I just go sit on the bench and watch my stock tickers. And so they're like, yep, he could have been sitting on a bench. You know what I mean? Like, I just need to know that. That's where my brain is at with that part. But I do think that after watching All Eyes on Delphi, the way that the people could potentially be walking, there's an absolute possibility that nobody would have seen each other. I've never been there. So I don't want you to take it like I've been there and I know all the things. I don't. I'm just going with what I've seen and what I know. That would be a very leading interview. Yeah, it would. But was it? I don't know. I mean, look at the interview they did with Keegan Kline. You were the last one that talked to Libby. And he's like, I was? I have 2 blue jackets, a Dickies and a Carhartt, and they look identical from a distance. The whole town probably remembers that day, especially those that were on the bridge. Yeah, but would you remember what you were wearing? I mean, I could tell you some of the hardest days of my life that I've been through, and I could not tell you what I was wearing. I remember a lot about 9/11, but zero about what I was wearing. It was my birthday, and I could tell you exactly what I was doing when all the news was happening, but I could not tell you what I was wearing. But I could tell you a general idea of what I was wearing. Even though it was that long ago, I could tell you that I most likely had on jeans because I had to go to work, and I was on my way to work, and I had on a t-shirt, who knows what color, but it would have been a t-shirt that doesn't go up around my neck because I can't stand stuff touching my neck. And I would have had on tennis shoes because I was on my way to work. So I could tell you a general idea of what I was wearing on 9/11. I could tell you exactly where I was. But you can still remember the day before. I was sleeping until my husband woke me up saying they're bombing us. Oh. Without referencing photos, I have no idea when I was or what I was doing on pretty much any day. That's like my brother. My brother, I'm like, do you not remember? Like we did that when we were like in our 30s and our 20s, and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like, are you serious? I was at home with cramps, probably wearing sweatpants. Yeah, I was on my way to work. It was my birthday, and I was like, I'm gonna get myself McDonald's on my way to work because it's my birthday and I deserve McDonald's breakfast. So I was in line getting my McDonald's breakfast, and I had the radio on, and the news came that the first tower was hit. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what's going on? What is happening? What is this? And nobody knew what happened yet. Nobody knew that there was like a plane. Like, it was all kind of, it was just chaos at that point. And then I got to work, and this is when I was a manager at Walmart, and we do these meetings every morning in a different part of the store. And so that morning we decided to do it in the electronics department because all the TVs were on. And so we were doing our morning meeting there, trying to figure out what was going on. And then on TV, because it was on the news, we watched the second plane hit the tower while I was at work. So I can remember all of that. And I could also tell you that my hair was probably in a ponytail because I hate my hair down. You see what I mean? Like, there's certain things that you would know, but yet I just don't think that you would know everything like that. But anyway, I digress. My whole point was I want to hear that interview. I want to hear the interview. I want to hear the questions that were asked. I want to hear how he answered the questions. That's it. A McMuffin. Sausage and egg McMuffin. Always. That's my McDonald's breakfast. Always. I was in first period class my senior year of high school. Aww. Recovering from an ACL repair, my mom called and told me the pilot flew into the trade center, and I said, no, it's been hijacked. Oh, shit. Are you saying that Alan left after the 4 girls or before? I would say that he most likely would have left after them, but I don't know. It depends on what scenario you're going with. I was in kindergarten probably eating glue. Oh, unindicted. That's just no way. You have to have all of it together. But it's different if you feel like you need to remember something for self-preservation as opposed to trauma. That's true too. And other people's memories are very different. I mean, my oldest son has a memory that is absolutely crazy. That kid could tell you like any episode of anything that he watched when he was like 6, and he's 15 now. And you'd be like, oh yeah, remember the episode of Jake and the Neverland Pirates where they did blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how in that? What? His memory is uncanny. I bet he would be able to tell me what he was wearing. So yeah, that's why I said, I just want to know. I want to hear it. I want to hear it for myself, and I want to be able to see how he answered the questions. He saw them as they met up at the Freedom Bridge before the 3 of them went to High Bridge. As they went back to Freedom Bridge, they saw BG. Okay, he saw them as they went up. They met up at the Freedom Bridge. Right. Well, if you have the other 3 girls that are leaving the High Bridge and going to the park to play basketball, they would be going in the exact same direction. So the 3 of them would be walking that way. And I'm not saying that he did see them. What I'm saying is we don't know that he didn't see them. And I want to know that he didn't see them. I need to know that. Because there's 3 girls in that group and there's 4 girls in the other group, and they keep referring to him saying he saw a group of 3. This, you know what? And there could be an entirely other group of girls that we have no idea about, that we don't know anything about. I was pregnant for the first time at age 40. Oh, geez. Oh, my gosh. And you're like, great, this is what I'm bringing a kid into. That had to be scary. 343 brothers, FDNY. I couldn't imagine being there. Speaking of 9/11, just a little side note, I am going to go sometime this summer. I'm going to go to the memorial in New York. Abby and Libby with somebody else would also be a group of 3. True. The purpose of memory is to support survival, so it focuses on what is important, and sometimes true facts aren't important for survivalism. Well, I don't know if that's the purpose of my son's memory, because that kid can remember weird shit that I don't know how. That had nothing to do with surviving. It's always possible that he wrote down the info from the day after his initial interview so he would memorialize what he remembered in case it was of any help in the future. Now, is that possible? Of course, I think it's possible. I don't know. Once he went and gave his information to Dan Doolin, would he have cared to remember it? Nobody came to follow up with him. Do you think maybe he wrote it down at that time and then? I mean, maybe. Oh, true crime fangirl, no way. Oh, shit. I would probably quit. I would have quit. Read what again? Because I haven't read anything on here for a little while. We went off on a totally different tangent. You want me to read that comment again? I really think he would describe himself in the exact clothing he had been looking. So this has always been my point to that conversation too, Tammy, is people are like, well, of course he lied about what time he was there. He told the first person he was there at this time, and he tells the cops in 2022 he was there at a different time. I'm like, well, then why the fuck didn't he lie about what he was wearing? Why not just say he was wearing something else? If he's going to lie about the time that he was there, why not just lie about what he was wearing? Okay, Caitlin, that's a great point. I see if I saw a video of the alleged killer of 2 people in my town wearing what I wore that day, I would probably remember that. That's an interesting comment. Possible. I'm gonna grab a drink. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. So I would remember if I was asked when it happened. Because of that, I would remember later. But that's not in Dan Doolin's notes. So we don't know if he was asked that. Dan Doolin did not write that down. And as we know, there is no video of that interview. So in Dan Doolin's notes, it just writes down, he just writes down that he saw 3 girls. So we have no idea whether he was actually asked that or not. We just know that Dan Doolin didn't write it down. I wish someone would ask the girls at what time they met up at the Freedom Bridge that day, because that's when RA saw them. It's in the memo. The younger 3 girls. Well, I guess they're not younger. Well, they are younger because it's a group of younger 3 girls. They're all about the same age. Maybe he thought he might have been caught on a trail cam or something. I have no clue. Devil's advocate. Well, that's what I always try to be. Okay, let me get back over here. So where are we at? The defense would not expect him to admit that he lied because Tony Liggett is not likely to freely admit that he provided false information or omitted information with reckless disregard of the truth in order to prevail at this preliminary stage. The defense has provided evidence in Franks 1, Franks 2, and Franks 3 that throughout the investigation and even after charges were filed, that law enforcement has provided false information or attempted to conceal information. Hold on. Let's see. Kara sent an email on my behalf. You may already know, but saw a local news story. 24-year-old man arrested in February 2024. Yes. Met him on Snapchat. Yes. Big Papa. Yes. How freaking, I mean, they went to go smoke weed or whatever that story was. But yeah. And he's like, well, I thought they were older. I didn't know. And when Dan Doolin was standing on that stage, knowing the day before RA described that clothing, nothing clicked. Bullshit. Yeah, I don't think that he did. I don't think he even asked him what he was wearing. Alan left after the first three girls before the four girls. The guy that the four girls saw was a head taller than 5'7" girl in that group. No way that's Alan. Well, here's another thing that it's interesting that on social media, the group of four girls also stated that they saw a guy walking his dog. You guys remember that? Which ends up being Riley, David Riley. But that's not really talked about either. And then it comes out later, they're like, oh, we only saw one person the entire time we were there. But that's not true. They saw the guy walking his dog. Doolin still has to produce his interview. Are you sure Dan Doolin was the CO that RA spoke with? I thought he spoke with Skinner when he died. Dan Doolin received his file and notes that included RA's statement from 2/14/2017. I'll show you guys something on that. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. If I can't, then I'll have to wait till the end. It is absolutely Dan Doolin. This conversation that's happening with Skinner, I don't know where it originated. It's on my list of rumors to figure out the origin of. But if we go to... Let me see. If we go to the Franks memorandum and the exhibit list, let me see if I can find it real quick. It's his interview. He's the one who talked to him there. So I don't know if there's something about, because I've heard this is rumor alert, that there is supposedly a the Richard Allen and Skinner were friends, and that maybe he called him and Skinner told him to go talk to Dan Doolin. Let me see. I think it's numbers. Let me see. Find it. But it's absolutely DNR Dan Doolin's report. I checked my audio recordings and cannot find one for him. So it's his interview. Somebody else was saying that they think that Dan Doolin was the one who found the tip later, and that's why he didn't recognize him. Well, in one of the press conferences, they thank the lady for finding the tip, for her diligence, or how did they say it? It was something like that. They think it's a lady that found it, but it's Dan Doolin's. I checked my audio recordings and cannot find one for him. Now let me pull up the Franks so I can show you that. I lean towards RA is guilty and others are involved. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with you leaning that way. I am not. I go back. I'm telling you guys, I know people don't believe me because I give the prosecution such a hard time in their filings. But I am not convinced that Richard Allen is not the right guy. I'm not. I need a couple more pieces, which is why I am so happy to get a trial and have this trial done, so that for me, in my own brain, I can go, okay, here it is, we're done. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm at with it. Okay, Doolin. Richard Allen, we think the girls were abducted between 1:30 and 3. Okay, already know that one. Doolin memorial. However, Doolin could memorialize that exchange, as Richard claiming he was a 2-hour time span. If so, Doolin's report would be inaccurate. Okay, that's not what I want. I have not read this in a while, so I'm trying to find the exact spot that they talk about it. And Doolin is the one who put the name in at Rick Allen Whiteman. Here's the report that shows that DNR officer Dan Doolin identified Richard Allen as Rick Allen Whiteman. Here is the quote from Dan Doolin. I checked my audio recordings and cannot find one for him. I will keep looking because I am sure I recorded every interaction I had related to my assigned leads. So I don't know where the Skinner stuff comes into play. I don't know why that seems to be something that is being talked about, especially by the people who are talking about it, because if that's the case, then they're showing that the probable cause affidavit is a lie, because they're the ones who say that he talked to Dan Doolin. So I don't know. It's the craziest shit to me. If they really believe it is Skinner that he talked to, then they're saying that law enforcement lied on the affidavit, because law enforcement, Liggett, is the one saying that it was Dan Doolin. So you can't have it both ways. Now, could it be possible that, that they were friends and he called him and he was like, hey, I don't know who to talk to. I was at the bridge yesterday or today or 2 days ago, whenever, because we've also heard contradictory statements on when he actually went and talked to Dan Doolin. And he's like, hey, I don't know, who do I talk to? And they're like, hey, he's like, hey, we're holding, something at the parking lot at the grocery store. Just go down there, give them your information, and then they'll follow up with you. Is that possible? Skinner was retired at the time, but did still do volunteer work. I know that. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know if that's the case. Doolin is saying that was his tip to follow up on. But they never followed up on him again. And it's another interesting side note that people are adamant that Richard Allen should have come forward to follow up with law enforcement, but are not upset that law enforcement did not follow up with him. And they're like, well, Richard Allen Whiteman, kind of screwed up the whole thing. They were looking for the wrong person or whatever. And it's like, no, you weren't. You're a town of 3,000 people. You weren't looking for the wrong person. You know that his name is Richard Allen Whiteman. There's like, oh, Richard Allen Whiteman, we don't know who that is. And now you have some fake name. You have some guy who came forward and gave you a fake name and you can't figure out who he is. And you don't think you're going to look further into that? Like, why would this guy give us a fake name? What? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not buying it. Okay. I wonder why you attract more people who can't accept that the thought that Allen may be guilty. You seem right down the middle to me. I actually feel like more of my chat is down the middle. And I think we get a lot of shit because we don't just go, nope, we're all in. Should we do a poll? Let's do a poll. And we'll see how the chat actually feels. Is Richard Allen in it? And this is obviously we all know constitutionally he is innocent until proven guilty. So that is not what I mean by this question. I mean, at the end of the day, how do you feel? Innocent, guilty, let's add an option of guilty with help and an undecided. Okay, so I put that up. Let's see. So yeah, so I put, is Richard Allen innocent, guilty, guilty with help, or undecided? And like I said, it does not mean, we all know he's innocent right now until he's proven guilty. That is not what the question means. At the end of the day, do you believe innocent or guilty, guilty with help, undecided? All right, I'll let that go for just a couple minutes and then we'll see. Okay, so like Mayla's mom says that she believes they don't have the right guy. Scott Price, that's why I'm saying, Scott, no, not that one. Not innocent until proven guilty. I need facts before I make up my mind. That's where I'm at. There's just a few things. Give me just a few more things, and I will be like, nope, or yep. I'm split. I haven't learned about the evidence that says RA did it. I do know I don't like the treatment he's receiving because if he's guilty, he may be released. Right, and I don't like all the shenanigans because if you screw up the case, then now there is no justice. Because if he is the guy, you can't retry him. You're screwed. If he's acquitted and he is the right guy because of not following up on certain stuff, you're never going to get justice. Everything's fucked. And that is scary. That's as scary to me as the fact that he is innocent. That if he is innocent and he's being held the way he's being held and his constitutional rights being violated. I have a problem with that. Both are scary because at the end of the day, there's no justice. Steven says he's not the guy on the video, folks. We don't have enough info to know. With what we do know, there's reasonable doubt, but that more than likely isn't all of it. Right. Well, and if it is, then if that's all they have, I don't know how well it's going to hold up. Tom says there was at least 2 people. Even if he's the right guy, the prosecution has a very heavy burden on purpose. I don't think they understand the process. If it's a mistrial, they'll be able to retry him. But if he's actually exonerated and he's found not guilty, there is no coming back. It's done. And he could walk around going, yeah, I did it, and they didn't get me, and ain't nothing gonna happen besides street justice. Yep, Michelle, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, this is a fucking mess. If he's acquitted, what does justice for Abby and Libby look like? Will they continue investigating? No, probably not, unless they get something that actually points them in the direction of somebody else. But here's the thing, is once they go all in, and I think that might be another reason they're kind of keeping this a little bit open, with there might be other players, is because once they go all in, and if Richard Allen was exonerated, and they go to charge somebody else, guess what happens? If they don't have new evidence to support this other person, then Richard Allen becomes the reasonable doubt. The quality of the confessions is key. I don't disagree with you there either. I think that's another big one, because we're like, well, he confessed. Yeah, I don't know, because if there was a confession, why isn't that shit? That would be, I cannot believe that Nick McLeland would not be quoting that this was what was said, which leads me to believe that it was a very generic, it's my fault. And I keep going to that one because that's kind of where I feel like it is. I have no idea what it really says or what he said or who he confessed to. I know that people keep saying that he confessed to like healthcare workers. I don't know that to be true. That's not in the state's filings, and that is not in the defense filings at all. All we know is that he said something to his wife and his mom, no less than 5 times. Yeah. And the conditions around the confessions. Yeah, there's things that I think they're still at play. They're still out there and they're still at play. And that doesn't mean that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a human sacrifice ritual. Oh, Jen, I didn't even see that you joined. I'm so sorry. Thank you for joining. I missed some of that stuff when I'm looking at my other screens. I apologize. All right, let's go. Let me take a look at the poll real quick and see where we're at. Yeah, see, it's pretty. It's most is undecided. There is some, and I know, like, you know, if this poll was put up in, like, let's just say it was put up in Gray Hughes's chat, this would be very, very different, and I get that. And so I know that this is representative of the people who are watching my channel. But there's 400 of you guys here, and there's only 172 votes. So you guys got to get in here and push the button, so I can get a realistic of, if you're watching the channel, what you actually think. And I don't care. Like I said, I try to be very open with that. I don't care if you think he's guilty. I don't care if you think he's guilty and had help. I don't care if you think he's innocent, and I don't care if you're undecided. You have an absolute right to your opinion. Veronica, I did too say hello to you as soon as you popped in. Of course I did. So right now, the majority of the chat is sitting at undecided, and then it's almost a 50-50. There's very few guilty with help. 4% of each of those, so an 8% total, 50% undecided, and 41% innocent, 42% innocent now. So, all right, I'll let it go for a little bit longer because, like I said, there's 400 people in here, and then there's only 185 votes, so. And while you're hitting that button, go ahead and hit the like button because there's only 159 likes. We have more freaking votes than we have likes on the video. Hit the thumbs down if you hate it. If you're like, this channel sucks, but I'm here listening anyway, go ahead and hit the button. See, half think innocent versus only 9% guilty. I wonder why so many come here versus others because you were down the middle. That I don't know. That's a great question. Don't know. I would select undecided. I'm leaning towards not guilty, but I need to hear the confession and more evidence. That's one I want to hear. I want to see/hear the confession in the context. I want to know how that interview went in 2022. If it was a very leading interview, or he's just over there volunteering all this info that it would be weird that he would remember, in my opinion. Like, there's things like that. Like, I want to know some of those things. I'm very interested in the other witnesses that were there that we don't hear about, the ones that aren't in the probable cause affidavit. You know, the David Rileys, the other 3 girls. I want to know more about them. If it was a sound confession, that would have been leaked. I feel like it wouldn't even have just been leaked. I feel like it would have that it would have been in a prosecutor's filing when he says that he confessed no less than 5 times. It would have been like, in quotes, I killed the girls, I left the sticks, whatever key piece of information that they were keeping close to the vest that they wanted to make sure didn't get out so that only the killer would know. He's going to need to do something like that. If he had a piece of information only the killer would know, I think that would have mattered in these confessions. I do think that most people come here because I don't care about the of if they think guilty or innocent or whatnot. I do think that a lot of the guilty people don't come here because I don't push that he's absolutely guilty. Said the key piece of information he shared was the time the Webbers came home and what they were driving. The Webbers, well, the Webber, what? It would only have been Brad Weber. So Gray Hughes said the key piece of information he shared was the time the Webbers came home and what they were driving. Oh, like, so he was there saw what time Brad Weber came home and what he was driving. I didn't hear that episode. Yeah, that's probably another reason. I don't go around calling people dumb or idiots or stupid or whatever. Well, most people. I'm open to change my mind, obviously, if the evidence is presented, but a man went for a walk wearing a blue coat in the Midwest. Yeah, I'm right there with you. That's true. I think people who think he's innocent like your channel because they want a fair trial, and so do you. That's probably good. He says RA was killing the girls, and then he's seen a purple van pulled up through the private drive, so he hurried up. A purple van pulled up, so he hurried up. Interesting. Did Brad Weber drive a purple van? I wonder how many hours he had been awake. Yeah, there's things like that I want to know. Who wants to make a bet that the confession recordings are deleted and all they have is the transcript? Well, remember back in some of the first motions to compel, they were stating that the defense only had a transcript, that they'd never even actually heard the recording. Oh, purple van is an example. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Is there really a purple van? Look, people are going to leave the chat now. They're going to be like, did you guys know that Brad Weber was driving a purple van? Okay, let's get back over here. We still have pages to go through. We have not made it very far in this at all. We have been sidetracked a lot. We've already been on over an hour and have not accomplished what we set out to accomplish. I don't even know where we were. Okay, so because Tony Liggett is not likely to freely admit that he provided false information or omitted information with reckless disregard of the truth in order to prevail at this preliminary stage, the defense has provided evidence in Franks 1, Franks 2, and Franks 3 that throughout the investigation and even after charges were filed, that law enforcement has provided false information or attempted to conceal information. If this court accepts or requires that law enforcement admit to intentionally or reckless disregard for the truth, then a Franks hearing is nothing more than a legal fiction. In providing evidence of law enforcement and prosecution attempts to conceal evidence throughout the case, the defense is providing the court the opportunity to reach the logical conclusion that if law enforcement and the state of Indiana has attempted to conceal information in 2023, then it is reasonable to conclude that law enforcement also concealed evidence or provided false information intentionally or with reckless disregard of the truth in the 2022 search warrant affidavit, or back in 2017. The defense has provided evidence that throughout the history of this case, but particularly in 2023, law enforcement and or the prosecution have presented false information or attempted to conceal evidence. Again, the purpose of providing said evidence is to provide the court the ability to question law enforcement's intentional or reckless disregard of the truth in 2023 that would cause the court to believe law enforcement would have acted similarly in 2022 when it drafted the search warrant affidavit. This is what I was saying. It's not easy to try to prove what somebody else did intentionally or willfully. I mean, unless you have like a recorded like, ha ha ha, I'm Liggett and I'm telling Holman on a recorded call, like, I'm going to totally lie on this affidavit, so make sure you have my back. I mean, it's going to be very hard to prove that Liggett did something intentionally. Holy run-on sentence. Yes. They definitely need a proofreader on both sides. So what they're trying to do is say, hey, Judge, there's a pattern of weird shit that we continue to see of missing evidence, stuff that isn't around anymore, stuff that is hidden, stuff that isn't being talked about, stuff that isn't being turned over. There's a huge, not necessarily cover up, but there's a huge issue with how much is not forthcoming. Why didn't they tell the defense at the very beginning of this, when they already knew that these interviews were gone, like, hey, back in August, September of 2017, we realized that the entire first week of interviews was gone. That would have been very easy to just say up front, but yet they don't bother to tell them until like 2024. So what they're trying to show is like, this is not a one instance circumstance. This is continual. Things are not being shared. Things are being hidden. Things are being concealed. Something is, you have to be able to see the pattern. And I think I was talking about this on the last live. It's like when we look at the prosecution, they're fighting it point by point. But when we look at the defense, it's a continual story. And I don't know if that matters to her. I don't know, like, legally, if that would matter to her, because, the law is very specific. So I think the law actually begs more, like, or leans more for the prosecution in the fact that they are going point by point when the defense is trying to say, hey, this is bigger than you're paying attention to. This is more than you're seeing. So below is a proposed order granting Frank's hearing, which is intended to assist the court in that it ties many of the defense's factual and legal arguments into language that expresses why this court should grant the defense request for a Frank's hearing. This is a proposed order. This is not an order. This is, most of the time they actually attach this separately, and then they make it so that she can just sign it, or that any judge can just sign it. There's like, here's the order. You don't even have to write it up. It's already done, and then she can just sign off on it. But this is not an order. This is just what they think the judge should really focus on and actually pay attention to when she issues the order. So this is like them acting like they're the court and what they believe the court should do, and the court is the judge. Comes now the court having reviewed the defense's third request for a Frank's hearing, as well as the response of the state of Indiana and the reply of the defense to the state of Indiana's response. As requested by the defense, the court also reviewed the contents of Frank's 1, Frank's 2, and also all the exhibits, and lastly, the exhibits this court received on April 5th, 2024, that the defense sent overnight and identified in the reply brief filed on April 3rd, 2024. And the court, being duly advised in the premises, now finds and orders the following. The court, having watched the 2017 videotaped interview, this is like lining out, hey, judge, these are the most important things that we want you to look at, so please look at them. The court, having watched the 2017 videotaped interview with Sarah Carbaugh, finds that the defense is correct in claiming that in 2017, Carbaugh never said bloody when describing the clothing of the man she observed on the road. The court also finds the defense was correct in stating that in 2017, Sarah Carbaugh never said the man she observed was wearing a blue jacket. So the defense thinks that Liggett put this in there to purposely make it so that it was Richard Allen. Like, ooh, he said he had a blue jacket, and the guy on the bridge had a blue jacket, so now we need this guy out here on the street to also be wearing a blue jacket. So that's what they're implying. I don't know how they prove that. The only way they can prove that is that look at the history of what this agency has done. In fact, Carbaugh described the color of the jacket. It was being tan. The court finds, therefore, that Tony Liggett provided false information in his search warrant affidavit, and this false information materially affected the timeline the state of Indiana advanced in its search warrant affidavit. Additionally, the court, having watched Betsy Blair's videotape statement and having reviewed other evidence provided by the defense, finds that Betsy Blair described the man that she observed on the bridge as being in his 20s and having brown, poofy hair. This description does not depict the way that the defendant, Richard Allen, looked in 2017, according to his age, and according to how his wife described how he has always worn his hair, very short, almost shaved. Furthermore, the court finds that Betsy Blair described a vehicle that was not black, and furthermore resembled a 1965 Mercury with sharp angles. The court finds that Richard Allen's Ford Focus was black and did not resemble a 1965 Ford Focus. Wait. What? Typo. 1965 Mercury, right? Court finds that Richard Allen's Ford Focus was black and did not resemble a 1965 Ford Focus. That's a typo. The court further finds these omitted facts were central facts necessary for establishing law enforcement's timeline of Richard Allen's involvement in the crime. The court finds further that should Judge Diener have known those false and omitted facts, that he would have refused to sign the search warrant, as they are types of facts that a judge would want to know before signing the search warrant, according to this case. as those facts materially affect the timeline in which a way as to show that Richard Allen was not on the bridge, nor was his car parked at the CPS lot, and was therefore not the man that committed the murders. However, law enforcement providing false information or omitting crucial information is not enough to require a Franks hearing. The next step is for the court to determine whether Liggett made these false statements and omissions intentionally and or with reckless disregard for the truth. The court recognizes that it is unlikely that Tony Liggett or any law enforcement officer will voluntarily admit that he intentionally provided false information or omitted information with reckless disregard for the truth. However, in this case, the defense has provided evidence by way of police reports, emails, photographs, videos, and audios that the defense claims show multiple occasions in which law enforcement provided false information in 2023 and or tried to conceal evidence in 2023. Just a few of those examples include the following. The defense provided an August 10th, 2023 deposition of Jerry Holman in which Holman claimed that a Purdue professor stated that it was not odinism or any type of cult worshiping that would have conducted the crime. Holman's 8/10/2023 deposition. However, the defense has since provided evidence that Jeffrey Turco never made such a statement. In fact, when asked at his March 21st, 2024 deposition if he, Turco, ever uttered the words to the police that based upon Turco's findings, the sticks were not odinism or any type of cult worshiping, Purdue professor Jeffrey Turco stated the following under oath. That was not a hypothesis that I was asked to weigh in on in 2017 and certainly would have declined to do so. When comparing Holman's deposition with Turco's deposition, at best, Holman did not provide accurate testimony. At worst, Holman lied under oath. In his deposition, Holman explained that based upon the Purdue professor's statement that those involved in odinism were not involved in the crime, and therefore his investigation into odinist was essentially abandoned. Holman's statement has been proven to be false in that the Purdue professor never claimed that it was not odinism or any type of cult worshiping that would have conducted the crime. So it has been proven to be false in that the Purdue professor never claimed it was not odinism or any type of cult worshiping that would have conducted the crime. That's a big deal. Holman's inaccurate deposition testimony is troubling to the court. Remember, they're pretending to write this. They're pretending to write this as if they're the judge. Did I say write this to the judge? Now I'm reading chat and saying and talking. I should not do that. This is what they're pretending the judge would say in her order. I think I said that right. Or suggesting the judge say in her order. Furthermore, the defense claims that for several weeks following Holman's August 10th, 2023 deposition that the defense had been requesting the identity of the Purdue professor whose findings, as mentioned by Holman and Liggett, essentially redirected the investigation away from odinism. The defense wanted to conduct a deposition of the Purdue professor to confirm the accuracy of the claims made by Holman and Liggett of the Purdue professor's conclusions that odinists were not involved in the murders. The defense made multiple inquiries to McClelland over the course of August and early September as to whether the Purdue professor had been identified. Each time McClelland said that the Purdue professor had not been identified. The defense has since provided an email to the court that the prosecutor, McClelland, sent to the defense on September 6, 2023, in which McClelland claimed, as stated before, we are trying to identify the Purdue professor, but no luck yet. Detective Holman has reached out to the FBI and Purdue and has not gotten a response yet. We will continue our endeavors, but we may not be able to identify him or her. However, a September 22nd, 2023 report drafted by Jerry Holman and provided to the defense on February 2024 tells a different story and contradicts McClelland's words in that September 6, 2023 email. There's receipts on this one. This is showing, and this is why I don't know if it's McClelland that lied or if Holman just didn't bother to tell him. And this is why the one I wish I was a fly on the wall and McClelland being like, what the fuck, Holman? Like, you knew who this was and now you made me write this shit to them. and they're going to hold it against us. Or did McClelland know and just not want to tell him? So I don't know. But it's obvious that there's a problem in the timing of this. There's a problem in the timing. They absolutely should have known who he was, because Holman knew who he was. And then instead of Holman just gets promoted. It's like, yeah, do all this shit wrong, and then we'll get you a lieutenant. Like, what? And it's why we should have a hearing. I agree. A hearing is understandable, but I don't know if what they're trying to do is going to be enough to get anything thrown out. I really don't. Because like I said, if you switch up and put all those things in, I mean, at this point, I don't even know if it's about the hearing. I think it's about the fact of just proving that these people are lying. It's just about showing, like, you want to say that it's not intentional and it's not willful. Holman lied. He absolutely lied. And if these receipts, if we had them and we could show them, we would be able to just write it out that there's an absolute lie. Hold on one second. Okay. Let me see what you guys are saying. Together they stand for the state of Indiana. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, but it goes to the whole willful and intentional. Did Nick actually write that email knowing that they knew who the Purdue professor was? I guess I hope not. Keep reading, Nick. Okay. All right, I'll keep reading. I shall keep reading. Hold on. There we go. Got it. Okay, so the defense has since provided an email to the court that, wait, I already read that one. Let me go down here. In his September 22nd, 2023 report, Holman admitted that the Purdue police had informed him, Holman, that the Purdue professor's name might be Turco. Holman knew this information as early as August 12th, 2023, and no later than August 14th, 2023. Furthermore, in Holman's 9/22/23 report, he says the following: I notified Prosecutor McClelland that I possibly had identified the Purdue professor. He, McClelland, requested that I meet with the professor and verify that he was the one that provided the report. This conversation between Holman and McClelland occurred, according to Holman's report, oh shit, sometime on or before August 14th, 2023. Okay. So according to Holman, he did tell McClelland that he had a potential lead on who the professor was. Therefore, McClelland knew for at least 23 days that Holman had possibly identified the Purdue professor as Turco. Yet, despite having the knowledge, McClelland not only told the defense team that Holman had no luck in identifying the Purdue professor, inexplicably, McClelland claimed to the defense that we may not be able to identify him or her. A few days after August 14th, 2023, law enforcement received Turco's 2017 report. In the first paragraph of said report, Turco wrote the following. Law enforcement received it? Law enforcement received his 2017 report? That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they have already had his report? They already had it. Turco wrote the following. The argument that these markings, the sticks, constituted an inscription inspired by Norse runes or modern recreation thereof is quite plausible, contradicting Holman's sworn testimony. However, said report was not received until the defense made a request to McClelland on October 4th of 2023, around 45 days after law enforcement claimed to have located the report. Okay, they located the report. I got it. So they find the report. Okay, let's break this down. They find the report, and which they already had. They already had it, so I don't. They just didn't know where it was. So it gets turned over because in the depositions. Okay, this makes sense. In the depositions, it comes out that they stopped looking at odinism because this Purdue professor said it wasn't Odin's, right? So they stopped looking into that angle. Then the defense requests a copy of this report to show that that's what the professor said and to understand why law enforcement stops looking at this investigative lead. So they go to find it. They didn't find it. Then it finally comes back up, which is, if you remember, this is the whole time frame where Barbara McDonald actually goes on court TV with a copy of it. So that's an interesting thing too, that she actually has the copy of the Purdue report. So we know they had it at some point because somebody gave it to Barbara McDonald. So finally, they turn it over to the defense team on October 4th, 45 days after they had claimed to have found it. Also, mind you, October 4th, does anybody remember what else happens October 4th? Somebody tell me they remember what happens October 4th. So the report's not received until the defense made a request to McClelland on October 4th. Around 45 days after law enforcement claimed to have located the report. Yeah, a leak. This is when the leak really starts to take full effect out there. We've got crime scene photos being passed around behind the scenes. It's not known to the public yet, but we also have the F tree that's being posted on. We also have the F tree that's being posted on Facebook. And then within so by the 12th, so another 8 days later, they're told to stop working on the case. Well, the 4th is when the F tree is posted. Does anybody remember what they were wearing on October 4th? Sorry, bad joke. Okay, so this makes sense. Now I'm understanding what they're writing here. Well, what they're saying that the judge should be writing. Clearly, by September 6, McClelland had been fully aware for over 3 weeks that Holman had learned the possible identity of the Purdue professor, and by then had even received the unsigned 2017 report of that professor. Yet McClelland claimed to the defense that the FBI and Purdue police had not yet responded to Holman, when clearly both had even providing the name Turco to Holman. In spite of this knowledge, McClelland then refused to alert the defense of the name Turco, nor provided the defense with the Turco's 2017 report, but instead told the defense, we may not be able to identify him or her. So if you guys remember the other day when we were reading through the state's response, and this is the other thing that I hear a lot now on social media, is like, see, they lied. They lied. They lied. The defense lied about the Turco report. They lied about what Turco said. And it's like, they're even repeating it here. The whole point was, Holman said they stopped looking at the Odinist because the professor said it wasn't Odin's. It wasn't Odinistic. It wasn't. And they both quote the exact same part of his 2017 document where it says it's quite plausible. Quite plausible. All right. It quotes his deposition too. It's dumb, but the defense should just file contempt also. This is just crazy behavior. I am very curious what the defense is going to do. I mean, they've requested sanctions. There's not been any response to the sanctions. I don't know. I mean, is that part just denied too? McClelland, the elected prosecutor, was not forthright with the defense when he, McClelland, told the defense that the prosecution was not aware. Oh, we already read that part. I'm getting all over the place. Did I read that part? Yeah. McClelland, the elected prosecutor, was not forthright with the defense when he, McClelland, told the defense that the prosecution was not aware of the identity of the Purdue professor. The court also notes that Nick McClelland was a signatory on the search warrant affidavit, approving the language contained in the search warrant affidavit. The court also concludes that if Nick McClelland was willing to attempt to conceal the identity of the Purdue professor in the September 6, 2023 email, that it is logical to conclude that as a signatory approving the language contained in the search warrant affidavit, McClelland might also be willing to fabricate or conceal other evidence in that affidavit. Additionally, having listened to Holman's September 19, 2023 interview of Turco and reviewed the transcript, the court also finds that Holman's report memorializing that interview was misleading in terms of what Turco actually said. It appears to the court that Holman was minimizing Turco's claims that it was a given that the sticks were left behind by someone attempting to replicate a Germanic rune script. Holman's report never mentions the word rune one single time. It makes it appear as if Turco was claiming that his findings were inconclusive as to whether the sticks were even formed as runes. In fact, the recording makes it clear that Turco never questioned whether the sticks were formed into runes. Turco only questioned the intended interpretation of those runes. Okay, so this is the argument where the prosecutor is saying, that's because he was told to look at them as runes. And so, of course, he's not arguing that they're not runes. Da, 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 da. But we're not, this is another thing we're going to have to actually hear. There's been no ruling. Okay. Additionally, the defense provided evidence that on May 1st, hold on, before I actually read that. Sleuthy, do you know what motions are still outstanding? Do you happen to have that listed somewhere? Like which ones we're still waiting on orders from the judge for? Like the motion to compel and request for sanctions. Obviously the Franks, the third Franks now. There's no motion. There's no order for the motion for parity. Yeah, I'm wondering what all is actually outstanding right now. We can go back. Ah. Yeah, if you watched Vikings, they had human sacrifice. Fanboys are possible. Mm-hmm. She didn't deny that one already? I'm going to go back real quick. You have a list? What else is on the list? I think that's the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. Of course Lucy has a list. Okay. Additionally, the defense provided evidence that on May 1st of 2023, Prosecutor McClelland received from law enforcement Officer Todd Click a certified letter and packet containing exculpatory information. Furthermore, the court finds that McClelland did not immediately turn over that exculpatory evidence to the defense, but rather waited 4 months before turning it over, and only after depositions were conducted in which the prosecution likely determined that it was obvious that the defense would learn of the existence of the exculpatory evidence as Todd Click was expected to be deposed. 3 law enforcement investigators named Click, Ferenczi, and Murphy believed that their investigation revealed evidence that third-party suspects involved in odinism committed the murders. This is consistent with the defense's theory. In the prosecutor's response to the defense, the prosecution claims that the defense is continuing to make up a story about odinism being involved in the murders. However, the very evidence that the prosecution attempted to keep from the defense for over 4 months contains evidence that 3 law enforcement officers involved in the investigation support many, if not most, of the findings and theories of the defense. Law enforcement actually supporting theories of the defense is highly unusual and highly exculpatory. What is, do we have more trolls in here? I wasn't looking at the screen. Did you guys get it? Those are not runes. Ask a real Odinist. Oh, that one. Well, I mean, I think it's interesting that the person who was closest to one of the people that the defense claims was involved in their theory, one of the people closest to them believes that it was runes. And so of anybody, I would think I would actually probably be trusting the people closest to them to understand the interpretation of what it is, not necessarily just an Odinist. Like my common example I use here is that I don't go asking Mormons to try to explain to me Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell's mindset. You know what I mean? But I would probably ask Melanie Gibb. Ouch. So TV shows are definitely, no, it's not that TV shows are the proof that Odinists practice human sacrifice. What most are saying when it comes to this is, if that is what it was, that it would have been somebody who was not an actual practicing Odinist. That's probably not the right word, but more like a wannabe, more of a somebody who doesn't understand the point, somebody who's not historically, educated on it. It's like they call him a fanboy, a wannabe, a somebody who does watch TV and thinks this is what it is. Like, one of the things that's quoted is from Turco was that he could see, somebody who Googles what would these people do, and it comes up with, like, this is what they think they would do. Like somebody who just tries to Google it and do it. A fanboy. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's been different terminologies used, but he's not, what they're saying is that it's somebody who thinks this is what you're supposed to do. No, and there's plenty, there's people who practice Odinism that come in the chat all the time, and I try my best to make it very clear that I do not believe that it's part of the religion. I do not believe that Odinism teaches people to do human sacrifices. That is not what I believe. And respectfully, even though I don't agree with Odinism, it's absolutely okay if that's your choice. I'm not a Mormon either, but I'm okay with Mormons. I'm not okay with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. It's a fringe. It's an extreme network of people who come out with their own crazy bullshit and variation of whatever they believe their religion should be. So, just saying. They come up with their own crazy way. This is murder simply. Odinism is irrelevant for determining Ari's guilt. Hi, Helen. Okay. Law enforcement actually supporting theories of the defense is highly unusual and highly exculpatory. And he's not wrong there. Oh, yeah, like a religious sect. That's a perfect. Yeah, that's the right words. I finally said something I can, well, I try. But he's not wrong. Law enforcement, and I'm very curious what's going to happen with Murphy. if Murphy's going to end up taking the stand too, or if they've deposed Murphy. Obviously, you know, if they have any reports from Ferenczi, I think those would be included because Ferenczi's passed away, that I think they would still be able to use them. I don't practice voodoo, but I do what I want to do with my voodoo dolls. That would mean something different to someone who does practice voodoo than it does to me. Absolutely true, Hoodis. Murphy can't say shit. He's ISP. Is he? But isn't he retired? Is he not retired? All right, coming back over here. Certainly, the failure of the prosecutor in 2023 to immediately provide this exculpatory evidence to the defense attorneys allows this court to draw the logical conclusion that Tony Liggett, who signed the search warrant affidavit, and Nick McClelland, who with his signature approved the search warrant affidavit, would be willing to hide evidence from Judge Diener in 2022 when drafting and approving the search warrant affidavit. Furthermore, the defense provided the deposition testimony of Tony Liggett, who swore under oath that he believed evidence supported that only one man, Richard Allen, committed the crimes, and therefore it could not be a group of odinists that committed the crimes. However, the defense also provided the deposition of Tobe Lesenby, who testified under oath that he believed that more than one person was involved in the murders because it would take more than one person to commit the crimes. Furthermore, Lesenby testified under oath that Tony Liggett, in private conversations, agreed with Lesenby that more than one person was involved. This conflicting deposition testimony by the man who authored the search warrant affidavit, Liggett, provides evidence of attempted concealment, that multiple people were involved in the crime, and therefore supports that Liggett intentionally provided false information and concealed information in his 2022 affidavit for a search warrant. It is logical to conclude that if Liggett provided false evidence testimony in 2023, he could have provided false or concealed information in 2022 when drafting the search warrant affidavit. I mean, why didn't McClelland turn over the Todd Click's letter? Why didn't Tony just say, yeah, I think it was Richard Allen and probably somebody else? I mean, that's kind of what the charges were saying anyway. And then in private, Tony Liggett's apparently telling Lesenby that I absolutely do think it's somebody else, or it's Richard Allen and somebody else. But he doesn't want to say that in the deposition. I don't know. Once again, this part that we're reading is what they're saying the judge should say in her order, not what the judge is actually saying. While the defense has offered several other examples of law enforcement's false or misleading or concealed information throughout this investigation, those examples identified A through D above are enough for the court to order a Franks hearing, as at worst, it appears that law enforcement and or the prosecutor intentionally fabricated evidence and or concealed evidence. At the best, there is an appearance that law enforcement and the prosecutor attempted to falsify or conceal evidence on several occasions. The court therefore finds the following. A, Tony Liggett, who signed the search warrant affidavit, and Nick McClelland, who approved the search warrant affidavit, provided false information in the affidavit. They use the same words over and over again. I think they could simplify this so much, particularly as it relates to the 2017 statement Carbaugh affecting law enforcement's purported timeline. Tony Liggett and Nick McClelland omitted certain information, important information, in the search warrant affidavit as detailed herein, particularly concerning statements of Betsy Blair. Said omitted information also affected law enforcement's purported timeline. The defense provided several examples where law enforcement and or the prosecutor fabricated certain evidence in deposition testimony and emails and or attempted to conceal certain information from the defense, such as the identity of certain witnesses or certain mimicked crime scene photos, or failed to provide exculpatory evidence in a timely manner. As it is logical to conclude that if in 2023 law enforcement and or the prosecutor has fabricated falsified information in the course of a case, or has failed to timely produce exculpatory evidence in the course of a case, that it is possible or even likely that law enforcement and or the prosecutor signing off on the search warrant affidavit either intentionally or with reckless disregard of the truth provided false information and or omitted information in the search warrant affidavit that was drafted in 2022. Wherefore, the court grants the defense request for a Franks hearing and orders a Franks hearing to be set at a time to be determined by the court. Y'all watch defense play the KG Cody P and RL Carhart also, not just odinism. It's important for clarity. It makes it hard to read. Hey, blah, not a coincidence. Defense called him Honest Murphy, in my opinion. I know. They did. He was Honest Murphy. Mr. Honesty. Hey, Teresa. How is Baldwin writing the headings? Is he providing Go a copy and a paste? Well, that's why I said normally they actually have this like as an attachment. I've missed most of this. Just busy, but thanks for doing. Oh, you're welcome, Jen. Thank you for joining. Per Pat Westfall, no Vinlander has interracial ordeals. Definitely not patch holders. You can't join if you're black, and polar bears don't breed with black bears. Wow. I wonder what he thinks about polar bears breeding with grizzly bears. Food for thought. Getting off the topic, I wish I could read so fast out loud like UT. I can read fast, but by myself, but not out loud. Well, that's what trips me up. That's why there's always a word that I end up screwing up no matter what. Maybe they didn't want her to mark the reply as confidential. Yeah, maybe. But they do that. So typically they'll put it like on an attachment or a separate one, and it's like here's your proposed order, and then you can just sign off on it. Do bears eat wheat? Snappy Dragon. Yes, they do. That's why I asked that question. I was like, they do. So probably not a good analogy on his part, but either way. They don't expect her to sign it, so they didn't bother. Yeah, they just put it in here. We're talking about white supremacist nationalists who hide behind the religious freedoms afforded by the Constitution, identify with Norse paganism because it's a white religion. Agreed. Gilletta. Okay, we'll keep going. So that was the proposed order for the court. I'll be honest, like what they outlined in here is like trying to make it really, really easy for her to go. If you're not going to read everything, which we doubt you're going to, please, please, please look at these things. As a former legal secretary, I cringe sometimes at the documents that get put out. I know, I'm like, just get a damn proofreader. What about a Care Bear? Care Bears can breed with koala bears. And then you get the Care Bear cousins. Oh, that's a lion too, I think. I think Care Bears can breed with anything. They just end up being cousins. Okay, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. In fact, we are all dumber for having heard it. What movie is that? All right, let me go back down. Okay, so number 9. The state of Indiana has accused the defense of making false statements in a continued effort to support the theory that those involved in the murders were also involved in odinism. The prosecution also indicated its confusion as to why Jerry Holman's 2023 attempts, as alleged by the defense, to hide the identity and findings of Purdue professor Jeffrey Turco have anything to do with a search warrant affidavit that was filed in October of 2022. The words contained in the proposed order granting a Franks hearing in paragraph 8 above should answer the prosecution's questions as to how Holman's 2023 interview of Turco applies to a 2022 search warrant affidavit when factoring in the requirements of a Franks request. Law enforcement's concealment of evidence in 2023 supports the intentional or reckless concealment of evidence and false information in the search warrant affidavit of 2022. Liggett and Holman are both tenured members of the Unified Command. McClelland is the prosecutor who signed off on the search warrant affidavit. All three, Liggett, Holman, and McClelland, as shown in paragraphs A through D above, have attempted to conceal evidence throughout this case, the case, or made statements under oath that have been found to be inaccurate, misleading, or false. This goes back to the how do you prove to somebody that they are willfully and intentionally lying. Like, we all know as human beings, everybody makes a mistake. It very easily could be that Liggett was told by whoever did the Sarah Carbaugh interview and didn't go and look for himself that that's what was said, and maybe that's in the police report. So now that investigator would be somebody that would probably have to be looked at. But if there's if somebody's just constant, if somebody tells you something that's wrong and it's accidental and they're like, oh my gosh, that's not what I meant to say. I meant to say XYZ. But if somebody constantly is telling you everything wrong or lying to you intentionally, that would make you go back and look at the things that were said earlier and go, was that even true? Is this true? So that's their point, is like the only way to prove that somebody would do something willfully and intentionally is to show a pattern that it's being done repetitively. Okay, sorry, I had to respond real quick. Okay. As far as the prosecution's claim that the defense has made false statements in a continued effort to support its theory that those involved in the murders were also involved in odinism, the defense offers the following. Local rule required the state of Indiana to produce evidence to the defense by December 14th of 2022. Beginning September 8th of 2023 until October 6th of 2023, days before the prosecutor requested the defense get kicked off the case, the prosecutor finally turned over 14 hard drives, several thumb drives, and certain e-discovery. This court has not yet chastened the prosecution for its incredibly late discovery, which the defense has detailed in previous filings. I'm wondering what she's going to do about that, because they're not wrong. Oh, Jen, thank you. Thank you for the super sticker. I think I got a super sticker. So they were supposed to turn over all this discovery back in December, and they didn't. And this is one of the things that I've been asking about, is because they would have already had this stuff. This would have been the stuff that they've been gathering for years, no matter who was going to be arrested. They would have already had all of this information compiled. The state of Indiana's incredibly late discovery of exculpatory and other important evidence has put the defense in a continual bind in terms of preparing this matter for trial and preparing for depositions with all the evidence the defense would need for complete deposition preparation. The court has not found the state's failure to follow the local discovery rules as either intentional, negligent, or grossly negligent, even when the defense has provided evidence to the court in Exhibits 1 through 4 in Franks 1 that the prosecution delayed turning over exculpatory evidence provided by an investigating officer for more than 4 months after McClellan received that evidence, and only turned it over when the prosecutor knew that it was inevitable that the defense would learn of the existence of this exculpatory evidence. Does anybody not, I mean, nobody thinks it's weird, like anybody who's like adamant that Richard Allen is the right person, they don't think it's weird that the things that are missing have to do with odinism or those people? I mean, you're missing Brad Holder's interview. You're missing this information from Todd Click. You're missing the Purdue professor. You're missing, and then all of a sudden you have these depositions. Sorry, I had to cough. You have these depositions, and then all of a sudden you're bringing in Todd Click, Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall's kid. I'm just wondering, like, does anybody who's adamant that Richard Allen is the right guy, does that not seem weird to anybody? Okay, the court has not found. Oh, I already read this one. Gosh, I gotta keep reading the same stuff over and over again. Sorry, you guys. I get thrown off, and then I keep looking at chat and. Only turned it over when the prosecutor knew that it was inevitable for the defense that the defense would learn of the existence of this exculpatory evidence. To this date, the prosecutor has still failed to explain this 4-month delay. Again, the evidence the prosecutor failed to turn over to the defense involved the findings of 3 seasoned investigators. Well, they didn't even want it until after the depositions. They didn't even go get it from Todd Click until after the depositions. And then the stuff that was still being looked at when it came to these people and potential other crimes. You guys got this in chat? Like, I feel like maybe I should pop over here for you guys. I'm reading through chat, trying to figure out what's going on. Answer the question. Which question? What's the question? You guys got it? Okay. I don't know what the question is, so I can't answer a question. I don't know what the question is. Mercury's in retrograde. Fucking Mercury. People love mystery and conspiracy. But this is true. Are likely the killer? He might be a Dennis Rader, or he might have simply lost control during a confrontation with the girls. Might be a Dennis Rader. You mean like as in like a serial killer? I'd be curious. I'd be curious about that. But still, I mean, it's interesting that you bring him up though, because somebody actually compared him to BTK the other day, and was saying that they were the same age when they committed crimes, but that's not true. They actually compared him to Ted Bundy too, and Ted Bundy was younger as well. So I think the biggest thing is how many serial killers start killing in their mid-40s. Sammy Day's not a troll. Sammy Day comes in every once in a while and makes comments about how they believe it's Richard Allen, which is fine. They can believe it's Richard Allen. Okay. The defense is desperate. They are throwing everything at the wall in hopes something sticks. Nothing is sticking as their motions are baseless. I don't know if I agree with you on that, Sammy, though. I don't think their motions are baseless. I mean, and I'll ask you the question that I was just asking to people who actually believe that Richard Allen is guilty. Do you not find it the least bit odd? You do not find it the least bit odd that the things that are missing, or the things that have been hidden, and the things that are not being turned over all happen to have to do with odinism? Or these people who are part of the defense theory? You don't find that odd? Why wouldn't the Unified Command have already talked with Todd Click in the 4 months that he had sent that letter? Why did they wait until afterward? Why does Holman lie and say the reason they stopped looking at odinism is because Professor Turco said it wasn't odinism? But yet when they talk to him again, he says it was absolutely plausible. Why is the parts that are missing having to do with like Brad Holder's interview? Why does Holman purposely leave out what was actually said in the interview with Turco? Why does McClelland write to the defense and say, sorry, we're not going to be able to figure out who the professor was, whether it's even a him or a her, when we know that Holman already knew who the professor was because he'd already emailed him? those are, even no matter what you think, whether you think he's innocent or guilty or anything like that, why? How do you explain that away? How do you just explain that all the pieces that happen to go along with this are just not being turned over and not being talked about? Why in the world, if these people were cleared and they actually knew they were cleared and the professor said it's not odinism, why do you need to have any of those people come back in August of 2023? Why wouldn't you just show Baldwin and Rosie like, hey, here's the video of Brad Holder at work. Here's Patrick Westfall and everything that we did to prove where he was. Elvis Fields and Rod Abrams, those guys, nope, they were up here at the hospital visiting their friend. We have proof of them at the hospital. Johnny Messer, nope. Here's our interviews of him when we arrested him and when we had him as a suspect, and this is what we did to clear him. These are his cell phone records that we downloaded. Like, this is our investigation into all those people. Wouldn't that just be way easier than actually just keeping it all like, nope, it never happened. We don't know who the professor is. And then when they finally do turn it over, they like, and this one I get, because most shit when it's turned over is kind of like hidden because they want to make everything harder for the other side. Remember, R.A. didn't confess to fellow inmates. He told the two most important people in his life that he killed the girls. That's not what he said. And if you know that's what he said, then I want to know how you know that, because that's not what he said. No magic sticks making make-believe letters. No magic sticks making make-believe letters. Well, they're not letters. They're not just letters. And there are sticks. So are they magic? I wouldn't believe that they're magic. I don't think sticks have magic, but I am a Harry Potter fan. So I guess they could. But no, I don't think the sticks are magic, but they're put there intentionally. The sticks are absolutely put there intentionally. No cult involved. How do we know that Richard Allen doesn't belong to a cult? If he is the guy. I don't know. I think that's a pretty dry response. Like, I'm asking simply, like, Sammy Dave, do you not find it weird then that the information about Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Elvis Fields, Murphy Ferenczi, Click, and Professor Turco, all of that information is what was being held back and wasn't turned over? Why didn't they go and interview Mary when she called and tipped him in, when their whole theory and the whole thing they were putting out to the public was, this is your brother, this is your father, this is your son, somebody knows who this is? And Mary comes forward and she's like, I do know who it is. It's my brother, and he admitted it to me. He told me. And they're like, we're not going to interview you. We don't care. We're not even going to talk to you, because why? No fucking idea. No idea why we're going to talk to you. That Mary had to reach out to her friends in Homeland Security to even get anybody to talk to her about the person who confessed to her they did it. And once that happened, they give her a polygraph. She passes the polygraph, and nobody cares. Little one, and maybe that's possible, but that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is, and this is, I think, the part that's getting missed, is Holman stated the reason that they stopped looking into odinism was because they had contacted an expert in odinism who said that this crime had nothing to do with it, had nothing to do with Norse paganism, odinism, anything like that. So they stopped looking into it. When Purdy goes and talks to Becky Patty back in 2017, Becky Patty says, look at Brad Holder. Look at Brad Holder. He's an Odinist. Look into Odinism. Purdy goes back and he's like, hey, this is what they want me to look at. And he's told by his commanding officers, nope, those people have all been cleared. No reason to look at them. Does that make sense to anybody? Where is the, why, if they're cleared, this is what's frustrating to me. If these people are cleared and they had nothing to do with it, just show us that. Show us how you cleared them. Show us why they had nothing to do with it. It's really fucking simple, in my opinion. Like, if you actually followed up with Brad Holder and got his alibi, and we have Mullen on the stand who says, we talked to the HR person and he clocked in and out, and that's all they get, that's not clearing somebody. I could call Sleuthy Goosey right now and she could tell me that somebody clocked in and out to work. Where's any of the follow-up? If you listen to Patrick Westphal himself, he says he was not asked about any of that back in 2017. The first time they were asking him that stuff was in August of 2023 when he was brought back in and took up his first polygraph and gave his DNA. They didn't ask for any of that back in 2017. How did they clear these people? How did they say, no, it's not them? That's what I want to know. That's all. I mean, I don't. What did he say in his supposed confessions? We don't know. We don't know what was said. What we know is that they continuously say it was generic. And McClelland is the one who puts in his filing that he confessed to his wife no less than 5 times and his mother. And just adds like, and his mother. We don't know what was said. But lots of people looked into odinism early on. Nothing panned out, and it would have. I don't disagree with you. A lot of people were looking at odinism, even in social media, really, really early on. My problem is nothing panned out, but yet there was 3 investigators with like 70 years of experience who were still looking at it. And when they're trying to give the information to the unified command, they aren't accepting it. They don't want it. They're asking for search warrants. Those are not happening. Search warrants that are actually said, here, you can have a search warrant. Those are not being followed up on and executed on these specific people. I mean, if I wrote a list out, Sleuthy maybe already has one because you know she likes a good list. If I wrote a list out of all the things that just have to do with this specific thing, I just don't know why, if they did the investigation the way that they're trying to claim they did, this should be very easy to rebut. It should be done. It should be like, no, look. And I think it's frustrating for me because I go back to, if there was no Richard Allen and us, the public, were learning that they fucked up the investigation so bad that these potential people never even got followed up on. But you have like Jeff Stankard out there who in 2019 is getting re-interviewed when he has an alibi of moving he's in the middle of moving and he's with like 6 different people who actually say that, you know, give him an alibi. Yet he's being re-interviewed, but these people aren't. It's mind-blowing to me because I think this would be a really, really easy fix. It would be done. There wouldn't even be an opportunity for the defense to use anything if they had finished this. And I'm sorry, but we know that there's signatures. Robert Ives is telling the world there is 3 to 4 signatures at this crime scene. The girls are staged and posed. One girl is undressed and one girl is redressed. I just don't think you can ignore it. I think it's the old trust me, bro. Yeah, I know Odinist, and it's definitely not them. And I hate going back to this example all the time, but if you guys go and listen to Charles Vallow, the body cam of Charles Vallow talking to the cop about what his wife was doing to him and what she was saying about him, and they essentially thought it was a joke. They blew it off and acted like it was no big deal. Like, oh my gosh, this guy's fucking crazy that he thinks his wife thinks any of this stuff. And they go and they talk to her, and she's like, oh, ha, 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 I don't know, you know, he's having an affair, and he's doing all this, and, you know, I'm so pretty, so look at me. They ignore it. And yet, guess what ends up happening? Charles Vallow dies. Alex Cox dies. Tylee Ryan dies. JJ dies. They laughed at him. And that's why I'm like, I hate to continue to go back to that, but it's just like, this would be really easy to show what they followed up on and what they didn't. That's all I'm saying. And it's just weird to me that the shit that is a problem for them to turn over all has to do with this. Do I really honestly want to sit here and think like, oh my gosh, there's a white supremacist group of men that are in our country that are looking for little white girls to sacrifice in the woods? No, I don't. I have a 13-year-old white daughter. You think that's what I want to think? No, I don't. I don't want to think that. But I think it would be really easy for them to clear it up. That's where I'm at with it. And maybe that's where my inability to drop this or to not look at it comes from, is from following the Vallow case so closely from the time that the kids were missing. Maybe that's why I'm like, how do people rule this out? And maybe that's why I keep going back to it. I don't know the psychology behind that kind of shit, but I'm just like, just to act like it didn't happen. How do you just act like it didn't happen? That's like us over here just be like, there's no bullet. Ha 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 ha. There is no bullet. There's no bullet at the crime scene. Well, there is. We need to figure out how it got there, why it's there, and does it actually belong to him? Like, we can't just act like it doesn't exist. That's like acting like the sticks don't exist. They do. They're there. They're intentional. What the fuck they mean? I have no idea. But they're there. They are physically there, and they mean something to whoever put them there. All right, sorry, tangent, rant. I need a little Bob rant emoji. Comes down to police culture. It fosters a fat lack of curiosity because being curious equals more work. I think they thus thought they were going to solve it very quickly. And so it was almost kind of lazy. And I think they did things wrong. Things got screwed up. And they're like, shit, we've got to cover all that up. The sticks don't exist. Yeah, they're just not there. But they are there. All right. See, this is how I end up not knowing where the hell I've read and where I haven't. Again, the evidence prosecutor failed to turn over to the defense included the findings of 3 seasoned investigators, including one that worked alongside the FBI, who all supported the theory that odinists were involved in the murders. This theory is not just conjured from the imagination of the defense lawyers to gin up public sentiment, as suggested by the prosecution. I agree. It is a theory supported by multiple law enforcement officers who investigated the case. And I think it needed to be finished. And I think the prosecutor agreed, and that's why they called everybody back in, because he knew that they didn't finish it. Otherwise, there would have been no need for them. They would have already had the evidence to show they'd been cleared and how they cleared them. Much of the late discovery the state of Indiana finally turned over in September and October of 2023 was exculpatory in nature, including several interviews that the defense had been requesting, that there were key parts of the odinism theory the defense was pursuing, including interviews of Elvis Fields, Johnny Messer, and Rod Abrams. Included in this discovery, receiving nearly 10 months late, was Liberty German's phone dump, including the famous Down the Hill video. This phone dump contained very interesting information that the defense had approximately 1 month to investigate before the prosecutor requested the defense to be kicked off the case. The defense should have had this key piece of evidence to review and provide to its experts no later than December 14th of 2022. On or about October 6, 2023, the defense received geofencing evidence. The prosecutor requested the defense kicked off the case only days after the defense received this evidence. After the Indiana Supreme Court reinstated the defense team received the geofencing data in the form of charts and a map on or about January 30th of 2024. The defense then took that information to its expert for review. Because of the prosecutor's late discovery of the geofencing evidence, before getting kicked off the case, the defense only had the geofencing evidence for 6 days before this court ordered the defense to stop working on the case. Again, almost 10 months late. After getting back on the case, the defense has now had just over 2 months to analyze this important evidence along with all the other evidence it has received. The defense should have had this evidence on or before December 14th, 2022, and therefore is doing its best to analyze the geofencing data and has based its interpretation of said evidence on its technology expert who was providing opinions without the benefit of law enforcement reports that interpret the data. It appears that law enforcement has not written a single report that interprets their geofencing data. Why did they do it if they don't have anything to go with it? This court has since denied funds for the defense technology expert to conduct further analysis on the geofencing evidence. Attempting to understand the geofencing data, the defense asked for any reports from law enforcement that interpret the data and map that the defense located in discovery. We talked about this when we were reading through Nick McClelland's response, because it was like they're asking you to give them anything they've done, and so they can understand it, because right now they're just working off these 2 pieces of information you gave them, and that's all you gave them. The prosecutor claims that no reports or notes exist related to geofencing, but the defense can't be sure. In the past, the prosecutor told the defense that no notes or reports existed as it related to Liberty's phone dump, only to then be handed notes from the prosecution's law enforcement expert minutes before the deposition began, giving the defense little or no time to incorporate those notes into its deposition preparation. When the defense asked for the names of the geofencing expert the prosecution would call, the prosecutor initially refused to identify their expert, claiming it was not his job to provide that information. The prosecutor then stated he would talk to his investigator, Steve Mullen. Then, rather than simply identify the law enforcement officer who analyzed the geofencing evidence, the prosecutor provided the names of 4 possible experts, but refused to identify which one was their geofencing expert that had actually analyzed the evidence. Now, apparently, in his response motion, the prosecutor is claiming there are 3 geofencing experts he may use, but still has not identified which one put the map together or provided him the information he used in his response brief. In his response motion, the prosecutor also provided purported information that he has apparently obtained from one of 3 law enforcement officers who apparently has analyzed the data and relayed that information to the prosecutor, thus providing proof that the prosecutor has actually known the name of the exact geofencing expert who will be explaining law enforcement's interpretation of the data, but has refused to provide the name of that specific geofencing expert to the defense. Don't tell me that the prosecutor has 3 geofencing experts. They only have 1. Rather than simply identifying the proper law enforcement officer for the defense to depose concerning the geofence evidence, again, evidence that the prosecutor provided to the defense 10 months late, who put the map together, the prosecutor continues to conceal the identity of the actual expert. I don't know why they won't just say this is who put the map together. And I asked that the other day when we were reading Nick's response, because it's like, yeah, there's a list of people that we're going to have possibly testify, but that's not what they ask. They want to know who put it together so that they can talk to that person, they can depose that person, and actually figure out why they interpreted the data the way they did when they were putting it together. That's why I felt very gaslit on that last one. I don't know. It was like very weird. It was like a struggle reading it. Rather than simply identifying the proper law enforcement officer for the defense to depose concerning the geofencing evidence, I already read this one, didn't I? I did. The defense has no way of knowing if anything that the prosecutor claims concerning the interpretation of the geofencing data is correct, because no reports have been provided that substantiate the prosecution's claims in his response to the third Franks notice. Please notice on pages 2 and 3 of his response briefs that the prosecution has failed to provide the name of a single authoritative report that supports his claims as to the accuracy or inaccuracy of the geofencing data, while the defense has provided 126 exhibits to back up their claims in the Franks one alone. I thought this was an interesting comment because in the state's response, they kept saying they should be putting in, they have to put in these exhibits. And it's like they complained They complained about all the exhibits that they did put in for the Franks one. Apparently, the prosecution simply expects this court to rely on and believe in the prosecution's that the claims that he, the prosecutor, has asserted on pages 2 and 3 of his response brief concerning geofencing evidence without providing a single shred of proof whatsoever that his claims are true. Again, juxtapose this fact with the defense, who has provided 126 exhibits to back up their claims spread throughout the 3 Franks notices. At this time, the state of Indiana has provided to the defense a map constructed by someone that shows that 3 phones were in the area of where the bodies were found, moving in and around and near the crime scene at a time that the murders would have been committed, according to the state of Indiana's timeline. Someone took the time to take data and construct that map using only those 3 phone numbers and not the multiple other phone numbers that the geofencing data provided. For some reason, the author of that map focused solely on those 3 phones. The coordinates provided by the state of Indiana do in fact provide the times that the phones were in the area, despite claims made by the prosecutor in his response motion. So the map is focused solely on those 3 phones. They won't tell them who made the map, so there's no way to depose the person who made the map to figure out why their map focused on those 3 phones. In his response motion, the state of Indiana claims that the owners of the phones found on the geofencing map in and around the crime scene were interviewed and then dismissed as suspects. The defense has requested the state of Indiana to provide any report, video, or document memorializing any and all interviews of those persons whose phones were found on the geofencing map. That's simple, right? Okay. Nick's saying, we already interviewed them. They're already ruled out. If that's like the Cheyenne and her friend and or whoever, they provide, just say, hey, these are the 3 phones. These were their phones, and these are the 3 people. Now, Nick's probably going to be like, well, we sent it to you. Figure out where it is. The state of Indiana still is not, and they probably didn't even mark it like Jeffrey Turco's. It just says Jeffrey Turco interview. No fucking idea who Jeffrey Turco is. We just have to sit down and listen to it and figure out, oh, wait, that's actually the professor. The state of Indiana still has not provided said information or indicated where such information may be found in the vast discovery. The first the defense has heard that these people were interviewed is in the state of Indiana's response motion filed of April 3rd, 2024. Until the defense can depose the correct geofencing expert and analyze the geofencing expert's reports, the defense can only base its conclusions on what the state of Indiana has provided to the defense thus far. The defense made it very clear in its 3rd Franks notice that the defense, did not have any reports or information that contradicted its belief that 3 phones were in the area of the murders, but that the defense could be convinced otherwise once the prosecution provided more information or the name of its geofencing expert. Instead, they just put in the motion that the defense are idiots and they don't know how to read it. That's essentially what that was. And they're like, yeah, we don't know how to read it. That's why we're asking to talk to your fucking expert who put it together. Additionally, because the defense has no further funds for our tech expert, the reliance of the prosecutor to provide reports and to provide the name of the correct geofencing expert is even more vital. Well, yeah, because you need to know who to talk to understand that map. Sorry, filling up my vape real quick. The reliance on the prosecutor to provide reports and to provide the name of the correct geofencing expert is even more vital. It should be noted that the defense is attempting to raise funds for the variety of experts needed for Richard Allen's defense, and I think that Sleuthy's been dropping that in chat. At least I hope she has. Anybody who does want to donate to the fund for Richard Allen's defense experts does not go to Richard Allen, does not go to the defense lawyers. It's going to the experts that she's denying them funding for. It's not the defendant does not know if the tech expert can be afforded even with the money raised thus far. Geofencing is a very complicated discipline. And somebody in my comment section was like, ma'am, you do not understand geofencing. I'm like, no shit. I sure don't. No, I don't. I know that people, I know a very simplistic version of it, but I don't know the intricacies. No, I don't. It's a very complicated discipline. It requires experts to train the attorneys so that they can ask good, probing questions that will then help the lawyers and jury understand better the geofencing evidence. In his motion, the prosecutor assailed the defense's attempts to understand the geofencing data. The defense freely admits they are lawyers and not geofencing experts, and furthermore wish that they had accessibility to experts, like the prosecution does, that would be called at no cost and consulted with on a moment's notice. The defense would ask this court to ignore the state of Indiana's claims, unsubstantiated with any reports concerning its analysis of the geofencing evidence, until the defense has had a chance to depose the specific expert that put the map together that the state of Indiana still has not identified. It's a simple question. Who put the map together? That is the person the defense wants to depose. That cracks me up. It's like, just tell me who it is, so I'll go talk to them, and then I'll know all the things that you want me to know. They didn't even turn the map over until October 6th, 6 days before they were told to stop working on the case. The defense implores this court to review the evidence provided in Franks 1, 2, and 3, particularly the interviews of Betsy Blair and Sarah Carbaugh, and then compare that information with the affidavit for search warrant, and then to consider the examples of concealment or attempted concealment of law enforcement in the state of Indiana, and to sign the proposed order that it is also being filed simultaneously herewith granting our request for a Franks hearing. The defense is also sending to the court by overnight mail the following, which the court may not have, for purposes of analyzing this motion, and would request the court to review the same before rendering its ruling. September 6, 2023, an email from Nick McClelland claiming that Holman still does not know the identity of the Purdue professor and whom law enforcement may never be able to identify. Jerry Holman's September 22nd, 2023 report memorializing his 9/19 interview of Purdue professor Jeffrey Turco, in which Holman admits that he knew the possible identity of the Purdue professor as early as August 12th and no later than August 14th. Transcript of Jerry Holman's September 19th, 2023 interview of Jeffrey Turco. The audio tape of Jerry Holman's September 19th, 2023 interview of Jeffrey Turco. Jeffrey Turco's report from according to his deposition March 1st, 2017, and Jeffrey Turco's deposition from March 21st. This is when they all did together. Wherefore the accused by and through counsel offers his reply to the state of Indiana's response to the third Franks notice and would request the court to grant his request for a Franks hearing. Hold one moment. Okay. I don't know. I like some of this just seems like it should be so simple to me to fix. I guess that's where I struggle. And people are like, well, the prosecutor doesn't have to do whatever. And I'm just like, just tell them who the damn person was. This should be really simple. Who made the map? Okay, perfect. We'll go talk to them. Which one of these people is testifying for you? You know what I mean? Which one of these people is your geofencing expert so we can depose him? Could you imagine if the defense just put out like, oh, we're going to have one of these 5 experts testify about the geofencing? Do you think that anybody would, like, that it would not be a big deal? And I'm just reading through messages to make sure I didn't miss anything. Goal even secretly donated to the expert funds. Dean. AKA Radar. It's Saturday here, so already relaxing. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. It's still Friday here. I made a contribution and we'll make another donation as needed. You'd think the prosecution would want to share the information to force a plea. You'd think, well, if you are on the part where people are like, oh, no, he's definitely going to plea. I mean, wouldn't they be giving them anything and everything that's going to go to force him to plea? Because it kind of seems like that was the thing. If he was really offered a plea at the time it was rumored that he was being offered one, remember? If that was true, that would be before they had turned over any of this information. They lost their geofencing expert. We don't know who it is. We don't know. We're going to pull a rabbit out of a hat come trial. However, the first time that Purdy ever heard the word Odin or Odinite was at least May or June of 2017. Yeah. Which is around the time the audio started disappearing. That's how many coincidences does it take to make a coincidence that people want to pay attention to? Not that I'm aware of, J Rabbit. They've been gaslighting us the whole damn time. I don't know, the last one I felt really gaslit. I was like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm thinking anymore. I mean, they did a good job. Yeah, who'd you interview? Just who'd you talk to? Who is the professor? This is like, how do you lose all of that? He's going to plea is just so absurd to me. Yeah, it's absurd to me too. I'm already having a few vodka tonics. All right, Helen, we're going to start paying more attention to your comments now. I know what a P26 looks like. Okay, I didn't know if they edited out a firearm, and if they did, how do you know it wasn't a P226? That's a conversation I don't know. It was about drugs and odinism. Like I said, I just think it would be really simple to be like, nope, here's how we cleared all these people. You guys are going down a rabbit hole that doesn't even exist. And that's kind of like the argument that I get when I do talk to anybody who's very pro Richard Allen is guilty. It is like well, they cleared him. Okay, well, what did they do to clear him? Like, what did they do? Well, they cleared him. They said they did. That's what happened. They said they did. Or it's the really dumb comment of, well, like, do you really think that the law enforcement wouldn't have cleared them? And it's like, yeah, that's what I kind of really think, because it would be really easy to prove that they did. And why hide who made the geofencing map? And then essentially call them idiots for not understanding it. Because whether you think that Nick McClelland wrote that response that we read the other day, or you think that Stacy Diener wrote it, or a paralegal wrote it, or whomever wrote it, that person actually understood geofencing, that they're like, duh, this is how geofencing is, he's not going to plea. He has to be convicted so he can appeal. That's the only way he's going to get off. I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm thinking that we very well could end up in a hung jury. That's my thought. I think we could very well end up in a hung jury. With what we have right now. Because like I said, if for whatever reason, let's say we get to trial and there is something that says, this geofencing that's like Richard Allen's phone is this phone that's actually right here at the time of the murders. I'm going to be like, okay, that's a little bit more convincing. Or if we get to trial and it's like, hey, they say that there's no DNA found that matches Richard Allen to the crime scene, right? That's what the defense claims. Well, that's actually not even what the defense claims. That's actually according to quotations of Jerry Holman's interview and deposition from August, that there's no DNA connecting him to the crime scene. Now, let's just say that's not true, because we don't know what the fuck is really happening in our world anymore. And we get to trial and all of a sudden, like, there's DNA that is Richard Allen's that is on one of the girls. I mean, I think that, well, that'd probably be more questionable because we don't already know about it. But if there's just something like, there's more things that tie it all together and say like, hey, look, he's here. He was actually here at this time, not these two different time frames where it's like, well, he lied at one and told the truth at the other, because that's open for interpretation on which one you believe he lied at and which one you believe he told the truth at. Just something. Then I think that it'll be easy to find him guilty. That's where I'm at with it. They hid the professor. They're hiding the geofencing expert and data. They hid Click, Murphy Ferenczi, 90-page report, 3 big potential exculpatory evidence. Yeah, they deleted Brad Holder's interview. This point can't be emphasized enough. The Odinite angle was abandoned by March of 2017, only a few weeks after the girls were murdered, which was when video stopped being lost, because that's when it was cleared. Hugh, I could listen to you reading the phone. Really? That's very kind of you. CeCe Moore wasn't allowed to help on the case, though. She offered, and they said they had their own experts doing it, according to Becky Patty's messages. I don't know. For me, it's like them not putting any of this stuff forward and trying to keep it secret pushes me closer to the defense team. And I think that's why people are like, well, she thinks Richard Allen is innocent. But it's like, why not just put it out there? Why not just say, hey, you know, like Rosie's saying, like, I'm trying to be transparent. I'm giving him all the mental health records, all the medical, health records. I'm giving him everything that I can. That was another thing that actually came out today, was there was a, oh shoot, let me see if I can find that. I did have it, and I don't think I actually downloaded it on my computer. But Rosie did turn over a neurological, I don't remember exactly what they called it. Does anybody have that handy? Let me see if I can grab it. He did turn over another piece of the medical stuff. Where in the world is it? Where the heck did I have it? Zane, just stop. Lay down. I swear I read it earlier. Where did I put it though? Nope, that's the reply. Maybe it's just in here. Let me just go look in here real quick. I want to say the right name. Of what the exam was. No, it's not in here. Notice of discovery. Did she just send it to me? Perfect, she did. Thank you. I'm like, where the heck did I read that earlier? Okay, so the independent neuropsychological evaluation of Richard M. Allen. It was prepared by Dr. Polly Westcott and dated 3/31 of 24. So they gave this evaluation that was done over to the state. And then, hold on. And then I was reading, it's like, talks about like how your brain works. Obviously neuropsychological, but I was trying to I was going through and seeing what they would actually be like assessing. I don't know if I can find the website now that I was reading though. That's okay. All right. Well, at least we have a name for that report. Well, that's what I'm like. They could easily just be like, okay, notice a discovery. Here's everything that we have on the geofencing. Here's the people involved in it. Like, this is who you can talk to. It just should be much simpler. Zane, stop. Lay down. All right. I think that we've covered everything we need to talk about today. Anybody else have anything to add? I think that's it. Yeah, make that bigger. Libertarian EO, I think you guys were on the same page, but just missed a little bit of each other's meaning. You were both agreeing that the video was planted, photoshopped, or did Disney do it? NASA. I got you. They assess everything. We have patients in our TBI clinic get neuropsych testing. Yeah, it was like everything about like how your brain works, how it comprehends things, how it functions. It was like bigger than it was more extensive than just like a regular like psych exam. The CC comment was cut off. I must have hit enter too fast. I said, yeah, like if only they would let. That's important. I don't want yeah. I got you, Dr. Vonda. I know what you meant. 2 questions. Why was RA not included in a lineup with witnesses? Because they wouldn't be able to actually point him out in a lineup. That's my question, or that's my answer. Why was genetic DNA not used? Well, that's a question I have, but then the response I get, which is no, there's nothing to back it up, was that they, it's just been kind of rumored that they didn't have enough to be able to do genetic genealogy or investigative, genealogy. They said there was no DNA evidence. There's definitely DNA evidence. They admit to it. They admit to having DNA evidence and fingerprints. They just didn't know who it belonged to. But that's my question. So who does it belong to? Shouldn't we figure out who it belongs to? All right. Just finishing up. And they pointed out someone else that's highly exculpatory for the defense. Oh, criminality. Neuropsych is what kids in special ed get. IQ, personality, attention deficit, and depression scales can be included. Yeah, it did. It was talking about like how they read, how they comprehend what they read. Yeah, it was very detailed. Radar CC was willing to work with whatever they had, I believe voluntarily. Yes, because they have a way to deal with DNA that doesn't have a lot of markers or DNA that's extremely degraded. But it's not surprising. She also offered to work on like John Bonet's case, and they wouldn't give up the DNA for years. They wouldn't give up the DNA they had. There's mixed DNA of 2 or more people. They can determine that though. It would just be they would be able to break that down. If there's truly DNA at the crime scene that has not been identified, it's a wrap. Well, the problem is we don't know how close to the crime scene, because they admit that there is, Tobe, Kim Riley, Jerry Holman, I mean, they all say that there is DNA. We just don't know what it was on, how it was located, how it was retrieved, how it was processed, and what they ended up doing with it. So let's say that they found DNA. Let's just go with this whole Gatorade bottle, because I've heard about a Gatorade bottle for a long time, but I've never heard that it was actually like at the physical crime scene. So let's say there's a Gatorade bottle that's found at the end of the bridge where they're told to go down the bridge. Now, is that inclusive enough of an area that you would think that it was included in the crime, or could it potentially be included in the crime? You see what I mean? So those things like that, we don't know yet. So now if there's DNA that's found on one of the girls that we don't know, I think that's going to be more important, or fingerprints on one of the girls. The Gatorade has multiple stories, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, so if there's DNA on a Gatorade bottle, that it could come from who knows how many people out there, then is it relevant DNA? Does it matter? So that's where I'm at with that. They were taking everybody's DNA except for Patrick Westfall's, because they didn't take that until 2023. All right, you guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for hanging out and being here on this Friday afternoon, Friday evening / for some of you Saturday already. Well, we know there's pee and spit and all kinds of stuff according to Kim Riley. So they had all kinds of stuff to try to test. But, neither here nor there, I guess. But I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Like I always tell you, I know you have 1,000 other places that you could be, and yet you choose to hang out with me. It is extremely humbling, and I do appreciate it, whether you think Richard Allen is the right guy, whether you think he's not. And before I wrap it up and before we do the outro, I guess I should probably do that and look and see what our final results of our poll were. Let's end the poll. We got 40% innocent, 9% guilty, 7% guilty with help, and undecided is 44%. And we have 467 votes. So it looks like most of you guys voted. So it looks like the majority of people in this chat are undecided or think innocent. Now, there is 16% of this chat does think he's guilty or guilty with help. And you're all welcome here, and I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Whether you agree with everything I say or not, I still appreciate you. So I will see you guys. When will I see you guys? I'll probably see you guys. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something over the weekend because I've been working on a lot of Karen Reed stuff to get together to start that. So maybe I'll see you guys over the weekend. If not, then I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a good one.
Down.